The man with unparalleled skills was brutally driven to death. Even his remaining youngest son couldn't escape the clutches. He was at the mercy of others, tortured at will. Every day, a finger was severed, and he was in unbearable pain. Even so, he never forgot the scene of his father's death. He was tormented like this for 13 years. After being released, he returned to the desolate Baishinman. Every day, he climbed to the highest tower to reminisce about his father. The greatest martial arts in the world, the 10,000 Shadows technique and the celestial demon shadow sword, belong to Baishinman itself. They are all inherited from the first to the fourth generation of sect leaders and the new martial arts mental methods. Therefore, my father taught me to recognize martial arts from a young age. When the rising sun illuminates the ruins of Baishinman, the wall of 10,000 shadows and the palaces will reveal mysterious characters. These all come from the fallen country of Yueha. Only he can understand them. But now he lives every day under constant surveillance. Someone is always watching, whether it's going to the bathroom, relieving oneself, or eating. To master martial arts is even more difficult than ascending to heaven. If those people found out he was practicing martial arts, they wouldn't hesitate to end his life. Only at night, when he is training with iron, can he practice the mental exercises secretly. During the day, he only sits on the rooftop, looking at the martial arts techniques on the wall, silently memorizing them day after day. A carriage arrived at the city gate, which had not seen any visitors in 6 years. The visitor is his father's most loyal subordinate. Since Huangji's defeated Baishinman, he has been forced to make a living as a bodyguard. He roams the world. He came through here to deliver some supplies to the young master, to ensure he has enough food for the winter. The two had a pleasant conversation about this matter. Feeling sympathetic, Huangji revealed the truths from that year. It all began one night, 15 years ago. A secret organization emerged. They burned, killed, and plundered. They committed every evil act imaginable. War erupted across the land. Countless lives were lost. To minimize the losses, my father, Chen Guangho, gathered his fellow. The Pathfinders formed the Cloud Heaven sect. The leader discussed the formation of a faction, the North Heaven Gate, to fight against the secret ritual. As the war progressed, the battle grew increasingly intense. Chen Guanghao selected 4 masters for the final battle. They were the North Heaven 4 pillars, the Fist Demon Chao Tianyu, the Earthly Celebration Martial Saint, the Ghost Sword Lian Tianhua, and the iron-blooded 5 Emperors Executor Xiaoxin. They defeated the secret ritual with their unwavering determination. But unexpectedly, a more powerful organization, the 9 Heavens, emerged shortly after. At this moment, the 4 pillars of Baishinman turned against him. Zhou Tian slandered Chen Guanhao and Mi Yi as accomplices. The always upright Chen Guanghao was in disbelief upon seeing this. Since the situation had already been set, struggling further would lead to no escape. He then dissolved Baishinman according to their wishes. The only condition for taking his life was to spare his son. The two sides reached an agreement. Chen Guanhao raised the sword in his hand. After some time, Zhou Tian raided the entire assets of Baidian Gate. They even imprisoned his son. The boy's face instantly filled with rage after hearing the story. He secretly resolved to avenge his father. He would restore Baidian Gate. For the sake of the ultimate martial arts secret manual, they burned, killed, and looted, turning every place into a living hell. The captured boys had their fingers broken every day. They wanted the secret manual of the #1 martial arts in his family. After 9 days of torture, they still couldn't get any information, so they let him go but kept him under surveillance. Without martial arts training, he could only survive by forging. Just as he stepped through the door, ready to breathe a sigh of relief, he was met with a dagger pressed to his throat. A weak voice immediately followed. "Who are you?" Before the attendant could answer, the dagger around her neck was released. Turning around, she discovered a woman lying on the ground, blood continuously flowing from her wounds. Seeing this, the attendant immediately checked for signs of life and quickly carried the injured woman back to her room. Seeing the faint heartbeat was caused by a poisoned hidden weapon, she took out the last remaining heart-protecting antidote and made him take it. Then she used a silver needle to seal the wound, preventing the poison from spreading further. After completing a series of measures, she was drenched in sweat. The next day, the woman woke up from her sleep. She quickly realized he was still alive. "My arms no longer feel numb. Clearly, the toxin has been controlled. I was thinking about why I treated a stranger." At that moment, the crew member preparing breakfast heard the commotion and handed over the cooked meal. The woman stared at the crew member warily. She awkwardly asked for her name. She said she couldn't just watch someone die in front of her. She would stay here until her injuries healed. After thinking it over, the woman decided to trust him. She introduced herself as Isha Shui. Then the crew member got dressed and left the room. She returned to the top of the Wanying Pavilion, looking down at the people below who were frantically repairing the house, busy preparing for the upcoming guests. Meanwhile, the woman in the room was channeling her energy to recover her internal strength, trying to quickly expel the toxins from her body. Just as he was about to succeed, a mouthful of fresh blood gushed out. He thought his life, hanging by a thread, was coming to an end. In that instant, a black figure appeared. It embraced him, holding him tightly. Then it pressed down on the wounds on his body. Soon after, it transmitted true energy into him. Before long, the poison dripped down from his hands. The woman slowly opened her eyes. It turned out to be her own guardian spirit. She asked where her master was after the ambush. The situation after the spirit arrived slowly, and now hiding at the North Heavenly Gate is the best choice. The top priority is for the young master to recover. As soon as she finished speaking, the spirit hurriedly left. Only the young master is left with heavy thoughts. This abandoned town turns out to hold an unparalleled martial art. After the so-called righteous forces emptied the northern skygate, only a dilapidated city remains. Every day, he can only practice his skills secretly by forging iron. Once he reaches a certain stage in his practice, he can sense movements from afar. No matter how extraordinary the other person is, they will never know how deep their internal skills run. Meanwhile, as it snowed, looking at the dilapidated north gate, the former splendor is gone forever. Just then, Chen Wuiyuan, who had just finished forging iron, came back to invite him to dinner. Life was quite peaceful, spending every day playing and having fun. But a group of strangers arrived that day and broke this beautiful moment. These people are Xin Xiu, the daughter of the powerful Shen Mo Hai, and Xin Yuan, his son, along with Ximen Huilin, the granddaughter of Manhua, who was a descendant of those who once persecuted Chen Wuyuan's father. Upon arriving at Bei Tianmen, they began to act arrogant. Before long, they encountered the two people playing around, but he had other ideas in mind. He then followed the guards to the renovated house. The next day, the blacksmith was working as usual, but he was suddenly interrupted by Xin Yuan's appearance. He activated his fist of fist sense state. However, he didn't feel anyone approaching. Xin Yuan casually picked up a sword on the wall. I hear you can't use internal energy. How could she endure this heat? And she even complimented Jian on his excellent skills. He started showing off his sword in front of the crew member. Just as he was thinking about how to respond, Xin Yuan swung his sword. Seeing the fierce killing intent, various thoughts flashed through his mind. In the end, he endured humiliation and did not fight back, and was pierced through the chest by the sword. Just as the flight attendant fell to the ground, several figures rushed in, looking like they had been waiting for a long time. They brushed past Xin Yuan directly, one on each side, supporting Chen Wuyuan to help stop the bleeding. Standing on the side, Xin Yuan thought to himself, they couldn't even dodge such a simple attack. Did he really not have any martial arts skills at all? Then he threw down his sword and left. But Ximen Huiling was wholeheartedly concerned for Chen Wuyuan, helping him treat his wounds and sending him back to his room. She then turned to find Xin Yuan, warning him not to touch him again. He's very important to our future plans. We need to use his status as a descendant of the North Heaven Gate. On the other side, Yi Xiaoshui looked at the lying Chen Wuyuan, expressing concern. Was it those people who did this? Why don't you resist? Yet Chen Wuyuan touched his hand to thank him. Aside from the emperor's uncle, I haven't heard anyone nag like this. The blood dripped and then he shook it off. He solemnly said he was going to leave. The undead came to tell me that the master has recovered. Let me go meet up right away. The crew members struggled to get up. Let him not worry about himself. You can leave with peace of mind. This peaceful day was also interrupted. After arriving at Baishanmen, after testing that the man could not fight, a ridiculous excuse was used to invite him to the gathering. He, who was once the master, has become a guest. He was greeted with such enthusiasm. Just as they were about to start their meal, an uninvited guest appeared at the door. The sound of fighting outside alarmed everyone. A fierce-looking man suddenly emerged. This man was the Soul Demon Eunuch. He beat the guards outside to a pulp. Xia Xiaofeng, who was nearby, saw the scene and rushed over. He immediately questioned who the person was and why they were causing trouble. The eunuch laughed loudly and said, "Aren't you the so-called Lonely Star of Heaven? My ghostly team was defeated by you, right?" Xia Xiaofeng observed him closely. "Are you all squinting?" The eunuch, however, looked at him silently, but Xia Xiaofeng assumed a fighting stance. In an instant, he charged forward with lightning speed. The blinding light made the burly man unable to open his eyes. Immediately after being hit by Xia Xiaofeng's uppercut, he was met with another powerful punch. The speed of his punch left the burly man no time to react. Only a battered body remained on the ground. Without looking back, Xia Xiaofeng prepared to leave. But just then, the figure behind him stood up. Xia Xiaofeng immediately turned around to look. He saw the burly man's face contorted, muttering something. But the next second, he raised his hand and sent a palm strike. Then he leaped forward, watching Xia Xiaofeng dodge. Then it rushed down like a shooting star, releasing the soul demon whirlwind. As the dust settled, only Xia Xiaofeng lay beneath. But with his strong will, he still used his trembling hand to grab the strong man's foot. He looked at Tai Jiang, who was still unwilling to give up, seething with anger. Another round of brutal kicks followed. He wanted to end his life. At that moment, a voice came through. "Do you know who we are? My father is the divine Tree of the Nine Heavens and Four Seas Pavilion." As soon as he finished speaking, the strong man dismissed him as if he were flatulence. With a wave of his hand, he turned him into minced meat. Meanwhile, his brother Xin Yuan witnessed this scene and let out a cry of despair. Everyone was so shocked that they covered their mouths. But Shin Yuan rushed forward like a madman. In disbelief, he roared, "My sister has been beaten to death." In an instant, a killing intent enveloped him. He saw a strong man lightly raise his hand, producing a gust of wind. Shin Yuan fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Manhwa was startled and turned pale. He hurriedly urged his brother to take young Master Xie and young Master Shin away. He directly ignored Chen Wuyuan, who was calling him brother at the banquet. He quickly rushed outside. Immediately, he cast a spell to bind the burly man. Chen Wuyuan was amazed when he saw this. He didn't even use any tools or mediums. Manhwa rescued the two in no time. The man who delayed others was also covered in wounds. In Chen Yuanwu's eyes, it was completely meaningless. Just go to your death and have a taste of snow. At this moment, she suddenly turned her head towards the outside. A loud boom came from outside the window. It turned out that the strongman Tai Jiang had already broken the formation. Xiaoxua quickly grabbed Chen Wuyuan and tried to escape. After quickly dealing with the remaining people, Tai Jiang had already sensed the target's location. He raised his hand and sent out a gust of palm wind. The little girl didn't expect to see him again so soon. Xiaoxua knew she couldn't escape, so she told Wuyuan to run quickly. Tai Jiang stated that the only way to expose your cold-hearted father was to kill you. I will definitely bring him down. Once the dust settles, only a figure with white hair will remain. The crew member saw the wooden sign and was stunned. Could it be the enchantress of Honeycraft? And the ruler of Honeycraft has 4 great magical figures under their command: the Wind Demon, the Shadow Demon, the Dark God Spear, the Mountain Demon King, and the White Knight Sorceress. Yet, no one expected that Xiaoxua was actually a descendant of the White Knight Sorceress. When Tai Jiang saw him with white hair, he burst into laughter. But Xiaoxua unleashed the Silver Soul Star technique. I can't hold on much longer. I quickly turned to let the 5 yuan escape. In the blink of an eye, the 5 yuan was gone. Then I dashed toward Tai Jiang in despair. In less than half a stick of incense, I was defeated by Tai Jiang. Tai Jiang laughed, saying it was foolish to come here to die for a runaway. How stupid. The dying Xiaoxua was choked and couldn't speak. He recalled the little moments of life with Wu Yuan. She was the only one who brought warmth to him. Just when he was about to end his life, a sound of a sword swing echoed. Tai Jiang's hand was suddenly severed. Tai Jiang couldn't believe it. Chen Wu Yuan suddenly appeared in front of Xiaoxua, holding a sword. Sorry, I'm late. Then he introduced himself. I am the 5th generation master of North Heaven Gate, played by Chen Wuyuan. Xiaoxua stared at him blankly. Did you just go to get the sword? Looking at your injured hand, it seems stiff. Confused that it can't heal itself. Chen Wuyuan's aura made her uneasy. He must kill this guy. Clenching his fist, he strikes out, but it is easily dodged. Then he brings both hands down. His continuous attacks fail to hit Chen Wuyuan. Tai Jiang is furious and embarrassed. He leaps up, unleashing his renowned skill, Universal Annihilation. In an instant, a massive shockwave came crashing down from the sky. At that moment, a whirlwind gathered around Chen Wuyuan. The man, in order to save his beloved woman, recklessly fought against the great demon king. At a critical moment, he saw the martial arts on the wall. It was indeed the family's annihilation demon shadow sword technique. In an instant, his entire body was enveloped in a terrifying black aura. His movements were as swift as the wind. The speed of his sword was lightning fast. He effortlessly parried Tai Jiang's attack. His movements were divine, like a god of war. Tai Jiang looked on in disbelief. But the sustained battle had left Tai Jiang vulnerable. The attendant crouched down slightly. He unleashed his power in a flash and appeared before Tai Jiang. He struck with all his might, splitting the indestructible Tai Jiang in two. He exclaimed in admiration, truly a descendant of the North Heavenly Gate. He quickly recovered and counterattacked the attendant. Without his balance, the attendant could only endure the blow, plummeting to the ground like a broken kite. Before Tai Jiang could reach him, another wound opened on his newly healed body. Tai Jiang covered the wound, his fury boiling over. The injured crew member is already battered and bruised. Breathing has become difficult. It seems he has reached his limit. Tai Jiang looked at the bleeding wound in confusion. The magical training he practiced brought his body close to immortality. Yet now, the wound is not healing. He then walked up to Chen Wuyuan, ready to kick him into submission. Just as he was about to lift his foot to kick, Xiaoxua picked up a stone and threw it over. Tai Jiang, disturbed, reflected without anger and looked at her. This little girl is really eager to get herself killed. He then raised his hand to attack. After resolving the issue, he turned to Chen Wuyuan. A booming sound echoed in the air. He fell to the ground. Indeed, it was too stiff. Fortunately, the necromancer appeared in time and saved him. Then, the 4 magic wands of midnight appeared. The White Night Witch, Su Jinshang. Her expression was unremarkable. The demon of chaos. You should never have been born into this world. The eunuch replied, but it was you, Midnight, who created me. At that moment, the necromancer discovered that the young master had fallen in love with Chen Wuyuan. A wavering occurred. In order to allow the young master to focus on cultivating the Silver Soul Star Lord, to free himself from the 7 emotions and 6 desires, without hesitation, he drew a small knife and stabbed at him. This would eliminate future troubles. But suddenly, blood spilled. He grasped the necromancer's arm, pleading not to kill my benefactor. He didn't do anything wrong. Ziling watched her lord with pity. She took out the great Luo divine pill and made him swallow it. Tai Jiang had already stood up and released his oppressive aura. Strangely, his wounds still wouldn't heal. Su Jinxiang, who was facing him, had already unleashed her skill. In an instant, 2 moon wheels shot out quickly. Tai Jiang burst into laughter. Not a bit flustered. Just a glance made him flee in panic. Su Jinxiang turned to Chen Wuyuan. You are the last leader of the North Heavenly Gate? I didn't expect you to be so young and pretending to be a weakling. She slowly raised her hand, gathering her energy. Suddenly, a voice came from behind her. Master, you can't. The next second, ENGSUB dragged her body to him and knelt down. He responded with a cold, heartless statement. Get out of my way. The North Heaven Gate has an irreconcilable feud with us, and he is a descendant of the North Heaven Gate. ENGSUB begged desperately. He's my savior. Please let him go. I've never begged you for anything, she said, and then slammed her head to the ground. She wouldn't get up until her master agreed. Su Jinxiang pondered for a moment. I can let him go, but you must endure the ice crystal luminescence art. ENGSUB knew this technique was life-threatening, but she agreed without hesitation. She then took out a great Luo divine pill and looked at him with love. The impending separation made ENGSUB hold him tightly. With tears in her eyes, she said we can no longer meet. In that moment, the lonely Chen Wuyuan felt the world was colorless. He secretly resolved to make himself strong enough, but he was completely seen through by Yun Zhongtian's disciples. At that time, Chen Wuyuan was helped by Chen Ma and Baisha, Su Mu. Grateful, Chen Wuyuan also secretly guided him in his cultivation. It was truly shocking. He actually inherited the power and essence of Baishanman intact. In fact, Chen Wuyuan had already noticed him. Immediately, Su Mushang silently accompanied Chen Wuyuan. 3 days later, Su Mushang watched the blazing fire. After days of contemplation, he slowly walked up to Chen Wuyuan. Shyly and a bit embarrassed, he lowered his head. Suddenly, he knelt down on one knee. From today on, you are my lord. I, Su Mushang, pledge my loyalty to serve you. Guided by the divine signs of the weather gods, I will dedicate my life to you, facing danger and death. From this moment forward, I will only follow you. The caretaker at the tomb seemed bewildered. He watched as Su Mushang pleaded again and again. The crew member agreed to him. You are my first sword. Not long after, the royal uncle hurried over. The 3 of them worked together to burn the damaged northern skygate to ashes. After resolving the matter, they set off for the next place. Su Mushang clasped his hands together. My lord, please take care. I didn't expect the moment of farewell would come so soon. I will be fully prepared for the return ahead. Qianlong's departure is to fly to the heavens once again. Immediately, Su Mushang sat cross-legged. After 3 days and nights, I finally awaited the arrival of the young Changshan's group. I saw a strong man asking, who are you? State your name. Seeing this, Su Mushang slowly took out his waist badge. He sized the man up. I am Su Mu, from the Yunzhong Tianwai party. I was sent here on a mission. I am the only one left alive. The strong man lifted his large knife and questioned, the North Gate Master? Su Mu remained composed and said, he was ambushed by me in the flames. Hui and the 4 others circled the area once. Turning, he ordered them to search the ruins carefully, find all the bodies, and take this guy to the Shiling branch for interrogation. Lu Guangyi has passed away. The crew member from Baishanman set off overnight. The 2 of them arrived at Chiyan Mountain. This place is also known as Ghost Mountain. No living beings survive here. The environment here led Chen Wuyuan to decide to cultivate. The imperial uncle also resolutely supported him. He would send essential supplies and food every 3 months. Time flew by, and 7 years had passed. His daily persistence had made him grow up a lot. But the imperial uncle, who used to visit every 3 months, had disappeared for a year. Chen Wuyuan knew that the imperial uncle was a man of his word. It was impossible for him to be gone for so long. There must be something fishy. Thinking about this, Chen Wuyuan picked up his sword. A terrifying aura surrounded him. He simply swung it slightly. A large hole suddenly appeared in the towering mountain ranges. He pondered for a moment. He decided to go down the mountain to search for his royal uncle. After a 10-day journey, the attendant arrived in Lanzhou City. He went directly to the White Dragon Trading Company where his uncle worked. After several inquiries and directions, he learned that his uncle had gone to Lanzhou half a year ago. He then disappeared with the 3rd young master of the trading company. They even hired many martial arts experts to search for him in Lanzhou. Fortunately, a group of people were heading to Lanzhou today. The attendant decided to join the caravan and search for his uncle, and accompanying him was a young literary talent. He was of limited talent, but thankfully with the guidance of his imperial uncle, he has achieved some success. The attendant told him to stay close. Just then, the caravan stopped. The leader said, "The first group goes to eat. The second group protects the carriages." With that, everyone entered the inn in a grand procession. Just as everyone was eating and drinking, a group of Taoists appeared. They were the first-generation disciples of the Hongmeng sect. In no time, one of the Hongmeng disciples shouted to know who the cook here was. "Come out." Meanwhile, a pair of women hurriedly rushed over. Before he could ask, someone threw a plate of food at him. When he looked up in shock, he found it was Han Taiping, who had been expelled from the Hongmeng sect. As his former senior brother, this made him even more resolute. Without waiting for an explanation, Han Taiping slapped him and sent him flying. He used to be a prodigy of the sect. However, he was framed, had his martial arts abolished, and was expelled from the sect. Now, he could only silently work as an ordinary cook. Seeing this, his daughter stepped forward to seek justice. The Taoist glared angrily. He waved his hand and sent the little girl flying. Everyone present was furious but dared not speak. After all, they were the Hongmeng sect, one of the 9 major sects. Just then, Wenhao, who had no sect, stepped forward. The Taoist asked calmly, "Who are you?" A trembling voice answered, "I am A. Please spare them." When Yen laughed out loud, "Is this a hero saving the beauty? Don't you know the relationship between the Hong sect and the White Dragon Chamber of Commerce? You dare to interfere?" Wenhao retorted loudly, "They're not being fair." The Taoist drew his sword. "How dare you? You don't know your place. Today, I will be merciful. I'll chop off your arm." The flight attendant couldn't stand it anymore. A martial artist's arm injury is a serious matter. Just in the nick of time, he used only his fingers to block the bottom of the sword. Everyone was astonished. The Taoist even broke out in a cold sweat. The sword in his hand actually. He stood motionless. He could only make empty threats again. The attendant, upon hearing this, directly broke the sword in two with his bare hands. A group of Taoist priests quickly lunged towards the attendant. They both assumed a sword-wielding stance. The attendant easily dodged the attack of one Taoist priest. He raised his sword to block the attack of another Taoist priest. Using the momentum, he took 2 steps back. Then they rewarded each of them with a coin. They were in unbearable pain. Suddenly, a sword flew in. The angry Taoist rushed in furiously. The attendant moved with a ghostly step. He quickly grabbed his clothes. Then he gave him a big slap. But just then, a little Taoist actually ambushed from behind. Chen Weiyuan looked disdainful. He directly twisted the little Taoist's arm like a pretzel. The onlookers felt hesitant to speak. Just then, the young lady of the White Dragon Society arrived and witnessed this. She immediately blamed Chen Weiyuan for mishandling the situation. This led to a grudge between the Hongmeng sect and the White Dragon Commerce. Listening to their words, the attendant was unconcerned. "I will take responsibility for this." Seeing this, the young lady didn't explain further. "The Hongmeng sect will definitely not let this go." She turned and left after saying this. "Even so, I can still become a lamp that illuminates the darkness. This is the reason I train and the path I will follow in the future." He quietly waited for the arrival of the Hongmeng sect. It was because the boy acted bravely for others' sake. That Chen Weiyuan offended one of the 9 major sects, the Hongmeng sect. Wenhao could only apologize to Chen Weiyuan with guilt. Yet Chen Weiyuan comforted him, saying the martial world is very ruthless. But when trouble arises, one must find a way to resolve it. Survival of the fittest is the only law of existence. In such circumstances, standing up is an admirable act. Thanks to you, those two were able to survive. At this time, Wenhao asked Chen Wu how to break a sword with his bare hands. The flight attendant said that he had worked with weapons before. It turned out that the sword in his hand was made from a meteorite that the prince had found by chance. After 3 years of practice, and countless repetitions of hammering, he finally subdued the long sword filled with demonic energy. One small misstep could lead to being consumed by the sword's demonic energy. Before the words were finished, a strange noise came from behind. The crew member quickly stood up to investigate. It was none other than the senior brother Wukong from the Hongmeng sect. He sternly questioned why they were bullying the disciples of the Hongmeng sect. Before Chen Weiyuan could respond, Wu Guang's junior disciple urged to take him down. Wu Guang suddenly shouted angrily, "How could he do such a thing to a Taoist? He must be punished." In an instant, numerous Taoists rushed over. Chen Weiyuan remained silent. He directly drew the weapon in his hand. With just one exchange, the people in the air were scattered. But the disciples of the Hongmeng sect were numerous. He then raised his hand and waved. A deafening sound followed. Several disciples of the Hongmeng sect were knocked back. They charged forward again in no time. But Chen Weiyuan's martial arts were incredible. He faced them with ease. Those watching from afar were astonished. I didn't expect the emperor's uncle's nephew to be this powerful. Even the elite disciples of the Hongmeng sect couldn't injure him at all. This made Wu Guang realize that Chen Weiyuan was toying with him, so he quickly drew his sword. His momentum surged accordingly. He unleashed his sect's ultimate technique, Wu'ying Manhwa, and struck towards Chen Weiyuan. Facing his attack, Chen Weiyuan had long seen through it. The enraged Wu Guang could only attack wildly, but they were all easily dodged. Feeling humiliated, Wu Guang roared and ordered everyone to go all out. Chen Weiyuan said, then I'll have to use all my strength. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Guang charged forward with lightning speed. In an instant, Chen Wuyan raised his hand and summoned countless afterimages. A huge sword wind suddenly appeared. It flew away, leaving the originally arrogant Wu Guang stunned. This was simply because Chen Wuyan's sword chi was too powerful. Just as the sword's edge was about to reach Wu Guang's neck, the restaurant owner hurried out to interrupt Wu Guang. Seeing the newcomer, Wu Guang was incredulous. It was actually his junior brother, Tai Ping. After Wu Guang understood what had happened, decisively ordered all the disciples to kneel and apologize. Wu Guang also told Tai Ping that it was all his fault for being obsessed with training. That is why during his retreat, he allowed you to be framed. I never expected that someone in the sect would dare to do something so despicable. Tai Ping, on the other hand, expressed that he was already tired of it. I don't like the jealousy and the scheming within the sect. Even if I were to argue about right and wrong, it would be meaningless. It's better to let go of all this. I'll live the rest of my life for my wife and daughter. This will give me motivation. Just then, the disciples behind me pushed each other around. To avoid punishment, they made up all sorts of ridiculous excuses. Wu Guang remained silent. Then he burst into laughter. I didn't expect the Hongmeng sect to become like this, but in order to punish you, I must deprive you of your martial arts and reshuffle everything. If you of the Hongmeng sect are not convinced, I will cripple you. Having said that, I apologized to Chen Wuyuan. The next day, Chen Wuyuan was awakened by the sunlight. Wen Hao kept looking at himself. Then he said, "You're so handsome. When will I be as strong as you?" When Chen Wuyuan felt a wave of helplessness, so he taught him that practicing martial arts should not be rushed. It should be done steadily. Before long, everyone arrived at Chuanluo. Chen Wuyuan took Wen Hao to choose a heavy sword. Nothing was in his eyes. At this time, they passed by a blacksmith shop. The old man in the shop saw at a glance that the sword in Chen Wuyuan's hand was a demonic sword. If you weren't holding this sword, it would have been a big deal. Even you might be deceived by it if you're not careful. Chen Wuyuan expressed to him. He expressed his gratitude and offered to help Wen Hao find the sword. The old man then turned around and invited them in. He began searching on his own. "This is the sword I forged when I was young and ambitious. It weighs at least several hundred pounds." The attendant lifted the sword, indicating that this was exactly the sword he was looking for. Seeing this, Wen Hao was eager to give it a try. He immediately took the heavy sword with both hands. A clang echoed as it hit the ground. He awkwardly made up a flimsy excuse to the two. Then he slowly lifted the heavy sword. Just as the attendant was preparing to settle the bill, the old man said, "This item is only a gift, not for sale. I see you have an exceptional bone structure. We've met by fate. I'll treat you to a drink later as a farewell." The attendant saw there was no way to refuse, so they could only agree. The two then turned and left. As they jokingly opened the inn's door, they saw a group of people respectfully welcoming the hall master back. Chen Wuyuan and Wen Hao both looked puzzled. It turned out that the person who had just acted heroically was Long Hao, the master of the Iron Cavalry Hall. Then Long Hao's little brother quietly introduced their deeds. After listening, Long Hao stepped forward to introduce himself. The two began to engage in a bit of mutual flattery. Long Hao also introduced his team. There was the schizophrenic barefoot ghost, the expert seducer, Wan Shifeng, and the hot-tempered Chi Chang-lu. Afterwards, he wanted to have a competition with Chen Wuyuan. The two of them walked to a secluded spot. It was just a clash of auras. Knowing he was no match, Long Hao found an excuse to end the fight quickly. The attendant was helpless against his excuse. The next morning, the convoy met up as scheduled and departed for Lanzhou, but Long Hao was sound asleep in the attendant's car. Then a voice came, "Please help us." What appeared before them was an injured man and woman. It turned out to be Tang Jia Tuo. Tang Jia is also known as Chuan Luo Tang Men or simply Tang Jia. They were best known for making poison and using hidden weapons. They were out on a trip when they were ambushed by assassins. They were very meticulous and had already planned for a battle but were outnumbered. The Tang Jia members could only flee in panic. Only two remained, an old man and a young one. Everyone felt it was unbelievable. The girl pleaded again, promising to repay this kindness in the future. Long Haowen was lost in thought. He never expected the Tang family to be involved. As everyone pondered how to respond, the attendant had already picked up the old man. He called for them to get into the carriage. At this moment, the vice leader of the long riding hall expressed his dissatisfaction. The flight attendant said slowly, "We're surrounded. If you want to live, prepare for battle." Long Hao also sensed the unusual atmosphere around him. In an instant, the convoy was surrounded by countless assassins. A single explosion scattered the convoy. After the explosion, a man wielding a halberd appeared. The man gave a single command. Countless figures surged forth. Everyone was already prepared for battle. They, being experienced, were not the least bit flustered. Only the young lady of the White Dragon Guild trembled. Fortunately, she was rescued by a female general nearby. The general then said that if she wanted to survive, she shouldn't dawdle. This is a battlefield. As for the assassins of the Red Demon Brigade, they were equally formidable. He swings his knife as soon as he sees someone. The attendant easily restrains the opponent's hand from the side. Nan Junwei is in disbelief. He actually didn't feel the presence on him. He can even suppress me like this. Immediately, Nan Junwei emits a powerful aura. The attendant questions, Are you the master of this incident? Nanwei responds, if you're curious, I'll talk after you greet me. The next second, it appeared above the crew member. It struck down fiercely. Nanwei shouted, let me see your true strength. The crew member dodged skillfully. They charged forward. Leaping high, they aimed for the head of the spear. Nanwei couldn't dodge in time. He was injured on the arm. He felt a sense of alarm. This guy is really fast. The two exchanged blows for dozens of rounds, but the crew member maintained the upper hand. Seeing that he was about to be defeated, Nanwei De Huolong opened his eyes. In an instant, his spear burst forth with a crimson glow. With a wave of his hand, the next second, a huge explosion boomed through the sky. Just as Nanwei was feeling pleased with himself, the attendant had already appeared in the air. After a ghostly purple shadow, a huge sound came again. The smoke cleared. Nanwei collapsed to his knees, powerless. Chen Weiyuan mocked me even before I wielded my power. Just as Chen Weiyuan was about to press for answers, suddenly a poisonous shell shot towards Chen Weiyuan. When I looked back, Nanwei had vanished without a trace. Returning to the convoy, Chen Weiyuan introduced himself to the Tangmen people. I am Ming Chen. From today onwards, his name will shake the entire Jianghu. Can you believe this? This person robbed the entire casino with just one illusion. After the crew arrived in Nanzhou, because he was too powerful, he made people around him wary, so they had to go their separate ways. Tang Neely looked at the crew with reluctance, and took out a jade pendant unique to the Tang clan from her bosom and gave it to him. Let him have time to find him at the Tang clan in Shu. The old Tang Cheese noticed his thoughts. They teased him, saying that if he likes her, he should bravely say it. Tommy Lee turned red with embarrassment. She shook her head, watching the departing attendant. Arriving at the inn, she settled Gu Wenhao down. The attendant was preparing to search for the 3 old scholars recommended by the Hongmeng sect alone. After some investigation, the crew member arrived at a bamboo forest. After going in circles, they found themselves back where they started. They realized they must be trapped in some kind of illusion. To deal with clever people, you must either be smarter than them, or use a broken branch. A sword, cutting through the wind, was unleashed. The bamboo forest was instantly split in half. After a flurry of bamboo leaves fell, the scholar, sitting at the stone table, said to the steward, you actually defeated Wu Guang. That fellow even managed to break through my obscuring heaven and blocking the sun illusionary array. He's a cunning fellow. For the sake of our connection, is the missing person your blood? I advise you to give up. Otherwise, you might lose your life. Someone has set up an unsolvable situation. Whoever it is, as long as they are involved in this incident, they will be caught in the whirlpool of fate. You can tell he doesn't want to get involved. The flight attendant immediately left. On the way back, a chilling melody on the piano started to play, but the flight attendant felt like the music was calling to him. He immediately ran towards the source of the music. The man playing the piano saw the flight attendant and said, wow. Young Master Chen, you really came, because your music is calling me, but I don't seem to know you. I am Jean Danya. What Nanwei of the Ghost Slaying Squad said is indeed true. You are the first one who can respond to my. May I ask what sect you belong to, Master Chen? I have no sect. I just learned some rudimentary skills passed down from my family. I'm just here to find someone. As long as you let them go, I'll leave here. Letting them go back will cause me some trouble. How about this? Once I complete my plan, let them go back. I guarantee it on my honor. The attendant, hearing this, said no more, but gently drew the snowflake in their hand, while Jean Danyi lightly plucked the strings of their lute. We shouldn't be fighting here. And I really don't want to fight. Seeing the snowflake blocking their way, the attendant made a slight wave of their hand. The sword energy flew out. You just need to tell me where the person is. Don't challenge my bottom line. Jean Danyi used the sound of the zither containing true energy to block the sword energy. Immediately, the 10 fingers danced. A strange zither sound began to resonate. Waves of azure light flew out. Under the sudden pressure of the zither sound, the attendant could only close her eyes and silently resist. When she opened her eyes again, Jean Danyi had disappeared without a trace. The attendant told you never to eat anything in unfamiliar places. After testing the attendant, Jing Danyi found the male guard who was healing. He's holding a cigarette. That guy is a bit tough, like a mountain, impenetrable. I didn't expect this unforeseen variable to appear in the plan this time, but only in this way can the dormant secrets be awakened. Chen Wu Yuan is preparing to forcibly detain Jean Danyi, but a powerful person like him, who wants to escape, is still unable to be detained. He then went with Guo Wenhao to the place where the royal uncle was born, Mushi. Unexpectedly, they encountered Tang Neely and her nephew on the way. They were being escorted by the Hegemony Society to Mushi. As a former member of the North Heaven Gate Council, Ren Xiuguan looked at the young man in front of him. He couldn't believe his eyes. The Chen Wu Yuan in front of him was very similar to the memory in his mind, but he still comforted himself because the sect master only taught him to read. He never taught him martial arts. This person before me is said to be quite skilled, but why does that memory always resurface? I did something shameful in the eyes of martial artists. I wonder if that child is still alive. After he conducted a psychological struggle within himself, he turned and left. Chen Weiyuan watched Rin Shuguang walk away. Is the disappearance of the prince really related to him? He then decided to go with them. just in time to see the old acquaintance, Tang Meili. In the evening, he watched Tang Meili and the others prepare to check into the Bakuan Society's branch. Chen Wuyuan then raised his hand in a fist salute to bid farewell. After saying goodbye to Tang Meili, Chen Wuyuan took Wenhao to the largest inn in the Wood faction. Upon entering, he found only a servant cleaning. It's been almost half a year since we had any guests. Seeing the two people enter, the waiter quickly welcomed them. In the dining area, we will serve you our signature dish right away. As the two entered the room and set down their luggage, the waiter came in with the meal. This is our signature dish. Try this fish stew. Then he turned and left. But a moment later, the two of them collapsed onto the table. Just then, the door outside was quietly pushed open. A head wearing a mask peeked in. Never touch what's not yours. Just as the masked man approached the attendant, the demon sword snowflake emitted a buzzing sound. The man seemed to be in a daze. In a moment of impulse, he picked up the demon sword snowflake. The attendant, who should have been unconscious, suddenly woke up. She thought to herself that her experience in the martial world was still too little. The snowfield had been taken down by someone. She turned to look at the man. I found that I had been mentally deceived. So I asked, "Who are you?" The man replied, trembling, "I am a relative in charge of surveillance for the Black Moon. I am the leader of the Black Moon's infiltration, Manhwa. I was ordered to investigate your identity." Chen Wuyuan was shocked upon hearing this. He never expected that the demon sword, Shuehua, had such power. It made others obey without question. At the same time, he was also very confused. Why would the Black Moon Society, the world's #1 intelligence organization, investigate him? He immediately took the sword back into his own hands. The moment it left the man's hand, the man collapsed directly onto the ground. He said in a panic, "What happened?" "A relative of the Black Moon Emperor's group. Let's have a chat." His relative realized he was exposed. His face instantly changed. He directly swung the curved knife towards Chen Wuyuan's weak spot, but the two's strength was far too different. After a series of attacks, only a sound was heard. Chen Wuyuan's elbow strike sent his relative flying into the air. At the same time, his right hand clenched into a fist. He punched his loved one away. Moments later, Chen Wuyuan sat down gracefully, looking at his loved one who was lying on the ground, near death. The sounds of the fight had awakened Gu Wenhao. He looked at the dull and confused face in front of him. His loved one was covered in bruises and said, "Just kill me already. I won't say anything anyway." The attendant didn't seem angry. He simply said in a soft voice, "I'm not interested in Black Moon. As long as you tell me about the South State disappearance case, I'll share my information with you as a trade." "What do you think?" The relative nodded in agreement. The next day, Chen Wuyuan and his group strolled through the market. The relative, a member of the Black Moon Emperor's group, was quite annoyed that their identity had been exposed and they had to travel with them. Out of boredom, he decided to show Guo Wenhao his unique skill of 10 transformations. Guo Wenhao was so delighted that he clapped his hands in praise. Suddenly, the snowflake in Chen Wuyuan's hand buzzed again. Ever since arriving in Nanzhou Tower, it felt like he was being summoned. He thought that when he had time, he should go to Uncle Huang's tribe to investigate further. After some inquiries, the three of them, having obtained important news, quickly left. What will a person do when they go insane? Currently, the unrest in South Prefecture has prompted Yun Zhongtian to intervene. To prevent Yun Zhongtian's forces from getting involved, Chao Tian of South Prefecture has begun a full-scale crackdown. In the end, he even implemented the 3 alls policy. He directly ordered his subordinates to massacre all men, women, and children in Mushi City. 3 crew members hurried to the scene. What greeted their eyes were only fragments of bodies. There are both the corpses of the Red Demon Corps and ordinary civilians. The crew's anger was hard to contain for a moment. Suddenly, a loud bang was heard in the distance. The crew had already rushed toward the nearest abyss. The 3 people on the opposite side saw the crew charging over. They muttered that this group of rats was never-ending. "Let me show you the might of the hegemony." He saw 3 people extend their white arms, which looked like those of a bath. They went straight for Chen Wuyuan. Chen Wuyuan recognized it at a glance as the 100-pattern sun and moon fist, a unique skill of the North Celestial Gate. Although this technique had immense killing power, it would gradually make people lose their reason, take away their ability to think and judge, and would also significantly shorten their lifespan. The flight attendant watched the 3 people rushing toward him. His heart was filled with sorrow. The snowflakes in his hand slowly fell as he drew his sword. A terrifying demonic aura, dripping with the sound of blood, made the 3 people behind him unable to open their eyes. In the blink of an eye, the attendant had already sheathed his sword and stood still. The bodies of the 3 people behind him were scattered in pieces. Seeing that others were still coming forward, the attendant directly shot an arrow at each of them. I don't know how long this slaughter has lasted. The crew member discovered a man in front of them, standing with both arms raised. Upon getting closer, they realized this man was Ren Guangxiu, known as the 8-armed god general. It was because Ren Guangxiu was always concerned about the North Heaven Gate Tyranny Society that he was taken down during the massacre of Mushi City. They even took care of Ren Guangxiu along with the others. The crew crew member looked at Ren Guangxiu leaning against the stone, unable to believe, and called out, "Hero Ren." Ren Guangxiu heard a sound. He coughed up fresh blood. He raised his head to look. He didn't know if it was because he was about to die. He unexpectedly saw the shadow of Chen Guanghao on Chen Wuyuan. He then softly said, "Are you Wuyuan?" Chen Wuyuan looked at the dying Ren Guangxiu and replied, "Yes. When I was young, Master Ren taught me some martial arts knowledge." Ren Guangxiu was overwhelmed with relief and tears when he heard the news. "You're alive, thank goodness. When I heard about your death, I blamed myself every day. I couldn't go find you. I'm sorry, I was too cowardly. After I, Ren Guangxiu, die, I will go to your father to atone for my sins. We must stop Chao Tianyu as long as you are qualified." With the final cough, Ren Guangxiu ended his life. The crew member saw this, gently helped Ren Guangxiu close his eyes. Perhaps moved by Ren Guangxiu's heartfelt words, the crew member anxiously knelt on the ground, as if swearing an oath. The members of the Hegemony Guild enter a cave. They see bright red eyes on both sides of the cave. These are all the kidnapped merchants and, after being captured, they somehow all turned into madmen. Then everyone quickens their pace and enters the depths of the cave. Standing on the high platform is the person who fought Chen Wuyuan before, Jin Danyan. Jin Danyan opens his mouth and says, "Welcome to my world. My mission is to awaken the sleeping bees. You've seen those imprisoned madmen, right? It's just the right time for them to eat." Before anyone could react, the imprisoned madmen all came out. Madmen from all directions rushed towards the Hegemony Society. The battle between the two sides was extremely bloody. At that moment, Chen Wuyuan, radiating killing intent, stormed in. Chen Wuyuan's eyes glowed with an eerie fire. He roared, "Assistant!" Chen Wuyuan looked at the members of the Hegemony Society. He didn't hesitate for a second. He instantly killed the leader of the Hegemony Society's Tianyin Ton division. Nanwei, who arrived just in time, joined the battle. After dozens of rounds, all the veins in my body severed, collapsing under the demon shadow sword. Then I used the 5 yuan sword to seal the fingers to Golden Core Knight. "Who exactly are you?" As Golden Core Knight launched an attack, he slowly said, "The current Heavenly Palace demon is me." "You just used the demon shadow sword, right? It must belong to the deceased descendant of Baishanman." I watched as the attack approached. The snowflakes danced around the drone in my hand. The clash of sword energy and sound waves was intense and unending. After more than 10 exchanges, the golden elixir Yen, unable to withstand the pressure, unleashed her ultimate technique, the Heavenly Collapse Annihilator. When the smoke cleared, the flight attendant was nowhere to be seen. Looking up, the flight attendant was strangely hovering in midair. "I'll ask you one last time. Where is the kidnapped person? Where can I find them?" The Golden Core Cultivator is stubborn. With a single sword energy, I'll break through. Wherever the sword energy points, the ground shatters inch by inch. I see the Golden Core Cultivator spitting out blood. The attendant, like a flash of lightning, darted past. Jin Danyi, now, was powerless to resist. The stone pillar beneath him, along with himself, exploded in response. Seeing Jin Danyi, who had already fallen into a pool of blood, trying to stand up again, the attendant raised his hand, and the sword fell. It was a single, fluid motion. All that remained was the thousands of sword auras and the blood-soaked body of Jin Danyi. I have finally achieved my wish. Only in this way can I awaken the slumbering fate. I'm sorry to have drawn you into my bindings. Due to continuous battles, my internal energy has been overexerted. The crew member found their movements unusually sluggish. Suddenly, a wave of pressure came. I realized I couldn't move at all. To be precise, as long as he moves, he will die. Suddenly, a man appears behind him, holding a silver spear, draped in a cloak, his eyes glowing with light. After defeating the kidnapper, the Heavenly Palace's Devil Sound Golden Elixir Knight, Chen Wuyuan faced his biggest crisis in 10 years. It was the Black Winged Divine Spear, one of the 4 great magic wands. He faced the man's oppressive aura. Chen Wuyuan's body was drenched in cold sweat. Even at his peak, the flight attendant might have been able to defeat him, let alone after having fought several top experts consecutively. He was already exhausted. The man gently picked up the Jin Danyi on the ground. He had no extra emotions. His eyes were just cold in a way that was frightening. The flight attendant didn't dare to make any movement. The man's spear fell like lightning. The attendant quickly retreated out of the spear's range, but the spear seemed to automatically extend itself. It still pierced Chen Wuyuan's chest. Fortunately, the jade pendant Tang Meili gave him protected his heart. Chen Wuyuan, lying on the ground, was secretly shocked. He truly deserved the title of Black-Cloaked Gunman. Before Chen Wuyuan could react, the man raised his spear. The surrounding air was compressed, creating a booming explosion sound. A huge black shadow appeared behind him. It was the ghost face on the man's spear. The attendant reached for the snowflake on his waist. He wanted to stop the man from releasing it. But how could the injured attendant be his opponent? The attendant watched as the giant steam vortex rushed towards him. He could only fight back with all his might. With a deafening roar, The entire mountain was instantly reduced to rubble. When Chen Wuyuan opened his eyes again, his entire body was wrapped in bandages like a mummy. The events of the past 2 days flashed through his mind. Miya reappeared. The 4 magical wands were still intact. I couldn't help but think of elementary school. Just then, a relative dressed in women's clothing approached. It turned out that day, the relative had pulled the flight attendant out from the rubble. At that moment, while they were talking, Luo Wenhao had already brought in the flight attendant's uniform. Inside Yuntian, a figure in a black robe. The man wearing the straw hat is looking at the information sent by the carrier pigeon, and the content of the information is about the crew's actions these days. After the man finishes reading the information, he takes off his hat. This person is the crew's top enforcer. Chao Tianyou's dominance on the stage will always overshadow Yun Zhongtian. In the end, it will lead to a downfall, and all of this will fall upon the heads of those in Beijing. Long Hao has been searching for Wu Guang, and plans to directly cling to Chen Wuyuan's leg. Seeing Chen Wuyuan, he immediately puts on a look of surprise. Brother Chen, what a coincidence. You are also staying at this inn? You are now quite famous. Everyone is saying you are a rising star in the martial world. Beijian is your title. Hearing this, Chen Wuyuan looked puzzled. They left the inn. The attendant turned to Long Hao. How long are you going to follow? Long Hao laughed heartily. With a thick face, he replied, I'll just watch your back. I'm just happy. The faces of everyone in the Iron Cavalry Hall flushed red. They all moved away from him. They didn't want to be with him. At the Cloud Heaven headquarters, at the tomb of the head of the Chasing Dreams Hall, they learned from the intelligence that the Hegemony Alliance had sealed the gates. They guessed that Cloud Heaven might attack the Hegemony Alliance again, remembering decades of perseverance and swallowing their bitterness. Finally, the Lord has come out of the mountains. My sword has finally found a place to be of use. The scene shifts. Everyone arrives at Iwash in Wanju Valley. The dark surroundings seem increasingly eerie, with a loud rumbling sound. A bottomless cave appears ahead. Enter the cave. I only saw pillars rising inside, but the further I walked inside, the more madmen lay on the ground. Finally, I found a barren tree deep in the cave. Fortunately, Uncle Huang practiced the 3-yuan heart method. He quickly sealed his acupoints, so he didn't become a complete madman. Seeing this, Chen Wuyuan immediately had Uncle Huang take it. Depraved Christmas. Just as Chen Wuyuan was about to leave with his men, he discovered that Yun Zhongtian had arrived. Accompanying him were Uncle Tang and his nephew. They immediately expressed their gratitude to Chen Wuyuan and the others, and indicated they would take over here. Seeing this, Chen Wuyuan said nothing further. He then left the desolate spine of the land with the emperor's uncle and the third young master. The man in black with the gun carried Jean Danye's body step by step towards a more desolate place. He finally gave the body to an old man. The old man held Jean Danye's body and cried out loud. He was Chen Wuyuan, the 5th generation leader of the North Heaven Gate, where the water dried up. What a twisted fate. It's actually the North Heaven Gate. As an elder of the Secret Leaf, I once orchestrated a conspiracy in the sky above the battlefield. It's time for the summoning convention. No one can be missing from the 4 members of the United Magic Staff. The Frigid North. A white-haired woman with a black veil is mercilessly killing. After a long time, only the bleeding bodies remain on the ground. This woman is actually the one who has practiced the ice crystal silver light technique. Yin Xiaoxian, the once young girl, has now grown into a beautiful fairy with flowing hair. Due to her practice of the ice crystal silver light technique, she has lost all memory of the past. She only has a vague sense of Chen Wuyuan. After rescuing the imperial uncle, Chen Wuyuan and his companions prepared to leave Nanzhou. However, they unexpectedly encountered the third elder uncle giving birth to Chen Yuan. Xia Jinyue sees the dining table in the lake. The two who appreciate each other talk late into the night. Hearing that Chen Wuyuan is going to Yunchong Tian, Xia Jinyue looks shocked. After this incident, Yunchong Tian will definitely investigate. Since I can't avoid it, I'll just go find them directly. Xia Jinyue listened to the grandiose words of the man before him. He thought about the insight Simon Huilin had once given him. His mind was filled with thoughts. Then, word by word, he said to the attendant, I, the old scholar Xia Jinyue, wish to become the 5th generation master of Baishanmen. The attendant's strategist. Returning to the inn, he unexpectedly learned that young Master Lu had already detoxified. It turns out Tang Meili used the Lost Spirit Fire Gold certificate. Looking at Tang Meili, who was exhausted, the flight attendant said with a smile, You've been working hard this time. Tang Meili, deep in thought, blushed instantly. She didn't dare to look at her. On the third day, the flight attendants gathered everyone and set off together. On the way, Huang Zhi said to the flight attendant, We're about to pass by the tribe where I found the meteorite. Should we go take a look? The crew member thought that ever since coming to Nanzhou, the snowflakes in the demon realm had been stirring frequently. He nodded and drank together. The two of them immediately rushed towards Sword Xian Mountain. Sword Xian Mountain is now nothing but ruins. Following the guidance of the snowflakes in the demon realm, the two of them arrived at a cave. At the depths of the cave was a massive pit. The area around the pit is filled with dried corpses. All the corpses have died after having their blood drained. Chen Wuyuan's heart jolted. This scene clearly bears the marks of the cross-writing demon technique. Chen Wuyuan Yuan looked at the evidence, filled with immense anger. Is it possible that for the sake of his ambition, he betrayed Bai Ishinman, causing harm and even killing so many innocent people? As Chen Wu Yuan's emotions fluctuated, the sword's demonic energy seemed to be out of control. The demonic aura of the sword flew out towards the surroundings. The group of Long Hao, who were traveling, suddenly stopped. A group of uninvited guests appeared in front of them. The person was none other than Chao Tianyu, the demonic master of Nanzhou. Chao Tianyu has done countless evil deeds. He betrayed his brothers, burning, killing, and plundering, committing every crime imaginable. The hard-won Nanzhou was ultimately sealed off, yet he blamed all of this on Chen Wu Yuan. Upon learning that Chen Wu Yuan and the others were about to leave Nanzhou, he immediately gathered a large force to ambush them. Since Chen Wu Yuan had temporarily left the group, the usually carefree Long Hao became everyone's backbone. After communicating with Chao Tian, I realized he was just a madman. He wanted to take this opportunity to overthrow Yun Zhongtian. It was impossible to communicate with him at all. I immediately ordered everyone in the Iron Cavalry Hall to prepare for battle. The insane strategist Xia Jinyue saw that the enemy was at a disadvantage. Victory or defeat was hard to predict, so he ordered Guo Wenhao to cooperate with him in setting up the formation. He then sent a message to Zheng Liwu to hold back his attack. Everything is under his command. Wait for the signal. Moments later, dust kicked up from behind the Iron Cavalry Hall. Then, countless sword feathers flew towards the great Xiong Wei. It turned out that it was all a phantom array set up by Xia Jinyue. Taking advantage of the phantom array, the Iron Cavalry Hall immediately charged into the Hegemony Society camp. Wherever he went, heads rolled. Just as Guo Wenhao, after much hardship, planted the final flag, Xia Jinyue raised both his hands again. The Tietchi Hall members retreated upon hearing his call. Two giant palms were seen pushing towards the Bakuan Hui Jinrui. After a deafening roar, countless casualties were suffered by the Bakuan Hui Jinrui. This was the scatterbow and gambling bullets just freshly prepared by Tang Qimen. The battle is imminent. Tang Neely volunteers to go and scout. She immediately. The Hegemony Alliance is enveloped by a giant light. It turns out the shadowy down diagnosis had set up a powerful phantom dark formation in a short amount of time. The Hegemony Alliance's elite are blind within the light. Tang Neely takes eerie steps, moving freely through the Hegemony Alliance's ranks, scattering poison pills everywhere. After all, she was outnumbered and outmatched. And a woman. In the end, she was surrounded by the Hegemony Guild. In a moment of panic, a purple figure could be seen putting away the king's blade. The Hegemony Guild members were instantly shattered. Looking again, it turned out to be the flight attendant who rushed over after receiving a distress signal. The battle between Long Hao and Chao Tianyu was even more fierce. They fought for hundreds of rounds. All kinds of powerful skills, uncaring of the consumption of their output. Finally, Chao Tianyu was completely enraged. Just as he grabbed the dying Long Hao, ready to finish him off with a punch, the flight attendant, holding snowflakes, arrived in time to save him. Chen Wu Yuan dreamed of taking revenge with his own hands. Today, he finally got his wish. Chao Tianyu looked at the man in front of him. He saw the shadow of Chen Guanghao. He was shocked. The notorious North Jian was actually Chen Wu Yuan, his brother's son. Chen Wu Yuan stood facing Chao Tianyu with his sword. It's been a long time, my uncle. Why are you slaughtering the weak king in your own territory? You don't even spare the commoners. To commit such a heinous act. Is this what you intended to do after you climbed out of the North Heavenly Gate? Look at you. Are you still the Uncle Chao I once respected? Chao Tianyu glared at the conductor. I'm glad you're still alive. My father and I spent our lives battling on the battlefield, but we never had the right to enjoy the fruits of victory. It was all because of your stubborn father. He had immense power. Yet he chose to stay in the desolate northern desert. In the end, he was branded a traitor to the Central Plains, and you are nothing more than the son of a traitor. Chen Wu Yuan, I heard. Stop deceiving yourself. It was Qin Yanwei. You know it better than anyone. Chao Tianyu, however, didn't waste any words. He unleashed his ultimate move, the Kingu attack, towards the conductor. The conductor wouldn't back down. He leaped to dodge. Snowflakes danced in his hands. A powerful purple sword energy pierced through the peaks. It shattered Chao Tianyu's arm guard. Since you are stubborn, then from now on, I will take over the legacy of Bai Ishinman. Seeing him evade his famous deadly move, Chao Tianyu finally understood why the name Baitian stirred up the martial world. But he remembered that Chen Wu Yuan had never practiced martial arts. All the cultivation techniques of the Northern Heavenly Gate were sealed by their four pillars of the north. But where did this guy's martial arts skills come from? He then swung his thick fists. His power was fully gathered. With a strong wave of true energy, he charged towards Chen Wu Yuan. After a loud roar, the dust settled. Chen Wu Yuan leaped high and appeared in front of him. With a single strike, he extinguished the heavens. The shadow demon sword pierced out. The sword energy mixed with strange demonic aura. In just an instant, Chao Tianyu's entire armor shattered into pieces. All that could be seen was a shocked Chao Tianyu clenching his fiery fists. After one punch, a red dog several meters wide appeared on the ground. Chen Wu Yuan responded. After one punch, he could still move freely. He then then soared into the air, gathering strength again, changing techniques. He struck at the crew member like lightning. A huge rumbling sound followed. Another deep pit appeared on the ground. Chao Tian was about to end him with one punch in the pit. The demonic sword in the flight attendant's hand buzzed with bloody light. It stabbed into Chao Tian's abdomen. He was under a hallucination. His reaction was extremely slow. The flight attendant got up. He kicked the entire sword into. Then, turning around, he drew the snowflake from his waist. Blood gushed from Chao Tian's abdomen. He couldn't even cover it. The stewardess immediately danced the snowflake, her demonic sword. A series of attacks. It severed Chao Tian's hand meridians. It's not too late. The stewardess continued to dance with her demonic sword. The snowflake sword was emitting a strong purple aura. Demonic energy surrounded its body. With a powerful sword strike, a deafening explosion shook the sky. A wave of murderous energy dissipated. The powerful demon king, Chao Tianyu, fell to the snowflake sword of the conductor. After arriving in Nanzhou, the conductor had endured hardships to kill the demon of the heavenly palace, Yinjing, withstanding the strongest blow from the black-clad sharpshooter, finally killing the traitor, Quan Mo. Chao Tianyu's time in Nanzhou has come to a perfect end. Moreover, many extraordinary people have gathered around him. The team has gradually grown stronger. As preparations to continue north are underway, Yun Zhongtian temporarily parts ways with Huang Zhe and the others. An era of transition is about to arrive. The era of the dance competition is about to begin. Only those with great power have the right to stand in the martial world. Now is merely a transitional period leading to a new world. Knowing that while you grow, the enemy is also growing. It is reported that Xia Xiaofeng has mastered the holy light flow. These are all matters for later. The group has traveled for several months, finally arriving at the Shuchon Hall gate. After arranging his tasks, Tang Qimen took Tang Mili to report. The attendant, with nothing to do, strolled through the bamboo forest. Suddenly, a strong killing intent came upon him. The attendant quickly circulated his true energy to defend himself. He looked around, but saw no one. Realizing the opponent might be a master of invisibility, he activated his martial arts skill to its peak. A faint flow of inner energy brushed past. Seizing the opportunity, he drew his sword and thrust forward. After a deafening explosion, an elderly man appeared before him. The elderly man was Tang Jianyu, the current head of the Tang clan. Tang Jianyu raised his hands. End of the test. You are the last gatekeeper of Baishanmen. Truly, it takes a new generation to replace the old. He was fined 5 yuan for picking up the cane and handing it over. It was indeed on his way back. The two chatted casually. When his father was in trouble due to family circumstances, he was unable to lend a helping hand in time. I feel deeply regretful. In the end, Tang Jianyu spoke word by word. 50,000 loyal disciples. Tang Jianyu will lead the Tang sect to vow to follow Master Chen to the death. We will brave fire and water. We will not hesitate. Can you believe it? A group of big men actually spied on Chen Weiyuan while he was taking a shower. This was to repay Chen Weiyuan's life-saving grace. Tang Qimen is experiencing severe bleeding. A large vat of green medicine has been prepared. It is used to open up the meridians and acupoints for Chen Weiyuan. Even the hidden injuries have been completely cleared away. Chen Weiyuan now feels a surge of strength throughout his body. After the bath, Chen Weiyuan is getting ready to put on his robe. There is a knock at the door. It turned out that Tang Mili had sent him a cloak made of dragon skin. The moment the door opened, Tang Mili saw the stewardess with her chest exposed, her little face instantly turning as red as paper with embarrassment. She turned her head, not daring to look at the stewardess. The old maid even teased, I didn't expect the young lady to have a spring in her step. It's truly, a man is known by his clothes, and a horse by its saddle. Chen Weiyuan, dressed in a dragon cloak, appeared before everyone. Everyone praises it endlessly. At this time, Tang Qimen stepped forward and said, Young hero Chen, since you often fight, you need a healer who can provide treatment at any time. So I would like to accompany young hero Chen. With her face still blushing, Tang Mili raised her hand. The family head has also instructed me to go with you to take care of your meals and daily needs. And there's also Uncle Qi's new disciple, Lu Shan. You need to continue to provide guidance through force. With that, everyone packed their things. They continued onward toward Yunchong Tian. With the help of the Tang clan, it was like adding wings to a tiger. The attendant cupped his fists and turned toward the distant taro. What he didn't know was, in the extreme cold of the Arctic, the 4 magical staffs of Mai have been gathered. This is the author's final preparation for their return. In a bustling inn located between Shu and North Wu, many martial artists are dining. To resist Mai's resurgence, Yun Zhongtian plans to create a martial organization called the Red Devil Team. So, Young Yi was recruited to join the team. He was sent to the inn to band together for warmth. The eagle swordsman Zhuo Wenwei from the Tsanglong society thickened his skin and came to invite the mysterious Nan Xiulian from Wushan to join his team. Since she had just entered the martial world, Nan Xiulian didn't want to offend too many people, so she pulled over the newly arrived Chen Weiyuan and others, and smiled at Zhuo Wenwei, saying, I'm sorry, young master Zhuo, I have my own team. You don't have to worry about it. He then started chatting with Tang Mili like they were old friends. Finally, he learned that Chen Weiyuan was the infamous Ben Jian. He was shocked. He had just casually hugged such a powerful figure. He decided to follow him closely. Meanwhile, Lu Shan, enraged that the black and white fiends had attacked his master, fought fiercely with the two. They fought for dozens of rounds. In the end, they decided to use poison to settle it. Fortunately, Chen Weiyuan intervened in time. Otherwise, a disaster would have occurred. The Yangtze River is the source of the entire Central Plains. Since ancient times, those who control the Yangtze River can control the wealth of the Central Plains. Yun Zhongtian being near the source of the Yangtze River is no coincidence. Just as Chen Weiyuan and his group were preparing to board the Yunma ferry to cross the river, I was stopped by a strong man carrying various weapons. The person who came was none other than the eccentric of the Immortal Guild, known alongside Qi Xiaotian. How can there be such shameless people in the world? Upon meeting, they actually asked about the little girl's mother. Uncle can tolerate it. Aunt cannot tolerate it. The seemingly weak Lan Xiulian clenched her fists, initially not wanting to pay you any mind, but thinking that she shares the same title as a barbaric villain like you. Think of what is real. Let me just say that I drew my sword and used the Wushan school's ultimate skill, the Thousand Hands random sword, as soon as I saw him. After a roar of thunder, both of them were shaken back, several tens of feet. Having just stabilized themselves, they charged at each other again. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, blades clashed and swords met. They fought fiercely. Then, Nan Xiulian pulled another sword from the ground. I forgot to tell you, I actually use dual swords. She said that, and with her dual sword spinning, she leaped into the air. It takes a huge price to master dual swords. Nan Xiulian, because she wanted to be strong, had her right arm injured in an assassination attempt. Her mother once told her not to overuse her right arm. She thought, facing a strong enemy, it wouldn't be easy to win with a one-handed sword. She could only defeat this guy who insulted her mother with a two-handed sword. Xian Gonghui was also stirred by his dual sword technique's powerful energy attack. Let me see your strongest strike. Nan Xiulian's dual swords danced in the air, forming a hexagram. In an instant, the surrounding natural energy was completely drained. A rumble of thunder sounded. Thousands of sword shadows appeared. He actually mastered the dual sword style, the realm of 1,000 swords at sunset. Xian Gonghui was not willing to be outdone. He unleashed the great killing move of the 100 weapons clash. Countless weapons intertwined with one another. Moments later, a thunderous roar echoed across the sky. A cloud of smoke dissipates. In the huge pit in the ground, Xian Gonghui is covered in blood, lying motionless on the ground. The ultimately victorious Nan Xiulian can't hold on any longer. With a crash, she collapses. The despicable Zhuo Wen who actually wants to eliminate the two severely injured. At this moment, Chen Weiyuan descends from the sky. Just a glance made Sanglong and everyone break into a cold sweat. Do you have Xie Xiaofeng's permission for what you are doing now? After saying that, he slowly drew out Shuehua. With just a gentle wave, a broad road appeared, and reeds fell from the sky. Only 3 people, suffering from incontinence, remained in place. The crew member carried the bloodied Nan Xiulian. He left a message for Xie Xiaofeng. I'll find him soon. The world should develop naturally. It shouldn't be controlled by any one person. Nan Xiulian, whose injuries had improved, came to the deck to thank her savior, Tang Qimen. The originally harmonious scene was shattered by a fat, big-eared knife wielder. The newcomer was an old friend of Tang Qimen's. The plum blossom sword was strangely shaped. The two friends, who hadn't seen each other for over 20 years, started fighting as soon as they met. They competed with and looked down on each other. Ultimately, Tang Qimen lost face because of his disciple's unkempt appearance. The night wind blew fiercely over the river's surface. Sitting on the mast, lost in thought, Chen Weiyuan suddenly felt the snowflakes buzzing on his waist. He realized that his revenge might not be successful yet. At this moment, a disciple named Changyan stepped onto the stage, carrying a jar of wine to the bow of the ship. He raised the jar and drank it all in one go. The crew member couldn't stand the strong smell of alcohol and turned to leave. He walked away. The next day, everyone discovered that Changyan was lying in a pool of blood. The crew member saw it was the person who had been drinking heavily the night before. He couldn't help but feel angry. The cunning Xia Jinyue, however, made another discovery. From the victim's wounds and the smell of cheap liquor, it was determined that the murderer was among the other disciples of the Volcano sect. He then fixed his gaze on one disciple and asked, "Why did you kill him?" The disciple pretended to be calm and replied, "You have no evidence. Don't make baseless accusations." Chen Weiyuan looked at him intently and said, "Because I can smell liquor on you. Also, you're left-handed." Seeing that the situation was exposed, the disciple turned and ran. The crew member easily tackled him to the deck. The Taoist disciple decisively severed his heart and 7 orifices and bled to death. The 7 stars lost 2 disciples at once, and they couldn't control their minds for a moment. Their eyes turned red. Their inner demons flared up. They fell into the path of the demonic. Seeing the situation is dire, the crew member quickly restrained him with the sword sheath. However, the rampaging Qixing turned and attacked the crew member. The shockwave from the attack shook the massive cloud horse and the ship's formation. The crew member knew it was impossible to draw the snowflake sword while trembling on the ship. He led Qixing into the air. In a duel between masters, there's no need for flashy moves. The 32-move flower sword technique versus the heaven-defying demon shadow sword. The moment their 2 sword energies met, it was like a star exploding in the air. The spray of water from the blast soaked everyone on the boat. The next second, the crew member fished the recovered 7 stars from the river and tossed him onto the deck. Meanwhile, Tang Chi-men, using a secret potion, discovered a double-faced Azura tattoo on the chest of the disciple who had committed suicide. He saw the double-faced Azura. The crew couldn't help but think of Mi Yi. Could it be that Mi Yi has arranged spies in all the factions? The silent Jianghu is about to stir with hidden currents again. This person is skilled in the art of divination using the 9 palaces and 8 trigrams. He can see the horizon from the faintest starlight. He is the ghost of the 9 heavens, Juga Shiman. On the boat crossing the river, Hua Yunmo looked at the towering clouds above. His hands trembled as he tightly gripped the snowflakes. It really is cloud heaven. No place can escape its prosperity. The strategist, Pillow Moon, fought with a crooked mouth and squinting eyes. The one who could think of using this honeymoon to make a comeback and create a stir. It must be Ghost Pearl, Manhwa. It seems my future opponent is him. The group arrived at the Tang clan's secluded courtyard in Cloud Heaven. The attendant said goodbye to everyone and went into the bustling streets. Looking around, I found no one was following. I turned and went to a secluded courtyard. I knocked on the door and gave the secret signal. Then I was led inside by Xiaoxi. I discovered there were other guests inside. I leaned against a pillar and waited for a while. An elderly man wearing a strange mask came out. In the moment they brushed past each other. The old man sensed that the attendant's gaze was different from others. He then walked straight upstairs. The attendant did not expect to be greeted by an old acquaintance, Manhua. After briefly inquiring about the family, he took out a bag of gold coins and placed it on the table. I hope you can help me find someone. Yun Zhongtian, a former member of the outer party. Angry, Manhua swiftly removed the commission. Then she reminded that Gui Jian Lian Tianhua was also on the way to Yun Zhongtian. Upon hearing the name of his enemy, Chen Yuan felt a creak in the Shuangchuan room. Lian Tianhua's obsession with martial arts surpassed that of Chao Tianyu. Moreover, he was the mastermind behind the betrayal of Bai Shenmen. After Chen Yuan left, Mei Yueling, lifting her veil, realized that Chen Wuyuan was on the rise. She decided to help him with all her might. Meanwhile, Chen Wuyuan, alone, came to the city wall. He looked out at the distant Yundong Tian. He recalled what his father had said. His father told him that if he ever had the chance, he should come here. He should have a drink with the heroes of the... Suddenly, the old man he had met at Black Moon appeared beside him. The crew member didn't even notice when he appeared. After a lengthy discussion with the old man, the young man should not let his desire for revenge affect his perspective. Sometimes, you need to learn to compromise with the world. Then he tossed a jug of wine to the crew member and flew away. The crew member gazed at the brightly lit clouds above and couldn't help but recall what his father had said. If there's a chance, you must come here to have a drink with the heroes of the Jianghu. But upon arriving at Yangchangshan, I did not meet the so-called heroes of the Jianghu. Instead, I encountered more enemies. The attendant, who intended to leave, was stopped by someone. The person was none other than the idol worker who had just joined the Tsanglong Society. What exactly are you up to? The attendant just stood there silently. He didn't say anything. Seeing this, Nan Gongyi arrogantly said, do you look down on our Azure Dragon Society? He then drew his weapon and charged at the attendant. The attendant, with lightning speed, threw a few powerful punches. He easily knocked him down. Faced with the re-emergence of the Immortal Guild, the crew member slowly drew the snowflake close. At a very short distance, the snowflake, with its eerie purple edge, lightly grazed his face. It did not take his life. In Yun Zhongtian, killing is a very serious crime. I don't want to make this a big deal and cause a disturbance, so today I'll let you live. There are many assassin sects in the martial world who make money through assassination. The Huansha sect is one of the best. The leader of the Huansha sect looked at the enormous wealth and asked with doubt, "Do you want us to destroy the entire family?" The employer's face was grim. He slowly uttered, "I want to kill the traitor from the north." Inside the inn, Xia Jinyue is drinking and chatting with the crew. "From now on, we're going to get serious. You need to charge forward like a rhinoceros. I'll take care of the rest for you. I might stir up a storm in the martial world. Everyone in the world will be my enemy." Xia Jinyue howls to the sky. Only then can it be called my, Xia Jinyue's, lead role. Suddenly, Chen Wuyuan noticed a slight movement. He quickly kicked Xia Jinyue away. A long sword was seen emerging from the floor. Immediately, dozens of masked assassins broke through the wall. In this urgent moment, Chen Wuyuan grabbed the hot pot and knocked the 3 assassins back. He quickly used the invulnerable dragon cloak to shield Xia Jinyue. Then the snowflake was slowly pulled out. Not even with all-around perception did they notice that they were approaching. They realized that the other party could be a very powerful assassin group. It seems that they wouldn't survive unless they killed them. They couldn't care less about the rule that Yun Zhongtian must not kill. At that moment, Chen Wuyuan seemed like a demon from the abyss, mercilessly harvesting the heads of his enemies. He casually slashed his sword across the enemy's throat. In an instant, hot blood gushed out. With all his might, the enemy would be split in two. And behind him, Xia Jinyue understood well. Chen Wuyuan did not unleash his true strength to protect himself. Just as the attendant pondered how to effectively deal with these enemies, suddenly, I felt a chill behind me, so I hurriedly pushed Xia Jinyue down. I was struck in the shoulder by an arrow that passed through the wall. When the crew decided to make a desperate attempt to eliminate them all at once, a handsome figure descended from the sky. "I'm sorry, my lord. I had to shake off those watching me. Sorry I'm late. I will definitely repay your kindness. I will take revenge for even the slightest grievance." Just as Chen Weiyuan was about to face disaster, people descended from the sky at the tomb. "I'm sorry, my lord. I came late because I had to shake off those who were watching me, so I arrived late. It's time for my sharp sword to be drawn." Chen Weiyuan discovered that the person who arrived was the one he was looking for. He was overjoyed. He rushed forward and hugged him because the situation was urgent. After a brief conversation, they realized they couldn't stay there for long. Chen Weiyuan and Xia Zhenyu left first, so the tomb decided to stay and clean up the remnants. Just as Chen Weiyuan was speeding along, he suddenly noticed a shadow beside him. Chen Weiyuan immediately drew his sword to prepare for battle. He discovered that the newcomer was a relative of He Yue. He brought bad news. A new group of assassins was coming behind. Moreover, the dancers of Yunchanshan had also received news and were on their way. Xiaojin thought for a moment and guessed that someone wanted to use Cloud Heaven's rule against killing to set a trap. They wanted to use the accusation of mass murder to bring us into Cloud Heaven's prison. Since that's the case, we should just rescue them. Thus, Xiaojin patted Chen Wuyuan's sword hilt. "Do you trust me?" Then the two of them nodded in unison. Afterwards, they had their families take Xia Xinyu and leave first. I, on the other hand, will stay behind and wait for the assassins. Now that Xia Xinyu and her family are far away, I can focus all my energy on fighting. I stretched my muscles, held my swords in both hands, ready to face the enemy. Along with the snowflakes, a powerful purple demonic energy surged out like a tidal wave. Before the assassins could react, the attendant, like a purple dragon, in the blink of an eye, passed through the crowd of assassins, arriving behind them. The eerie sword energy instantly dismembered dozens of people. Looking at this bloody scene, even the assassins who had killed countless people couldn't help but feel a pang of fear. The assassins immediately panicked, hastily retreating. The crew never shows the slightest mercy towards enemies. With a single sword, he wiped out the three in front of him. There was no hesitation. He charged at the remaining enemies. No one could survive under the bizarre snowflake sword. In the end, under the countless purple sword energies of the obliterating demon shadow sword, the assassins turned into a sea of blood mist. The battle was over. Just then, the dancers from Yunchanshan arrived at the scene, but seeing the scene of carnage, they felt their scalps tingling. Cold sweat broke out. The captain of the dancers forcefully suppressed his fear. "Killing is not allowed here. Just surrender." Chen Wuyuan didn't resist in the slightest. He obediently raised his hands. He was put in the Yunzhongtian prison without a fuss. 130 years ago, Yunzhongtian wanted to rule the entire martial world. He conquered the North Heaven Gate in the city. He destroyed the secret sect. Now North Heaven Gate has been destroyed. The secret industry has resurfaced, disrupting all the plans of Cloud Heaven's higher-ups. All of this was changing subtly after the steward arrived at Cloud Heaven. Things are shifting. Over at the Tang family's courtyard, everyone was arguing fiercely about how to rescue the steward after he was captured. The intelligent and courageous Xia Zhenyue calmly said that this was actually a good thing for them. Yun Zhongtian is indeed very powerful. No sect has ever had such great strength. They just want to dominate the entire Jianghu, but they have also constrained the dancers who love freedom. If this continues, Yun Zhongtian's ruling system will become even more perfected. The larger they become, the more problems will arise. For only 5 yuan, you have the legitimacy to overthrow Yun Zhongtian's ruling system. Now Yun Zhongtian keeps harassing him. Our fates are intertwined with 5 yuans, unseen and unknown. We've fallen into. This battle for revenge will soon begin. I'm waiting for them to fall into disarray. Meanwhile, the few from the Shimen family also received news of Bei Jian's capture. They quickly gather. But Sanglong society ordered everyone not to provoke Bei Jian. They discovered that only Zuo Wenhu was absent. Zimenyu Ling thought to herself that the sky over Yunchanshan might be changing. On the other side, the summit meeting at Yunchanshan headquarters focused on the incident of Bei Jian's wanton slaughter in Yunchanshan. What the high-ranking officials didn't expect was that Chen Wuyuan still had such a great influence while in prison. They hadn't anticipated that he would gain support from several major martial arts factions in such a short time. This caused them to lose face in front of the martial artists who were about to gather. Just as these high-ranking officials were thinking about how to pin the label of collusion with the Eternal Night on him, the Ghost Sword, having traveled from afar, strode confidently into the venue. He was here to participate in the selection of the Crimson Demon Squad. Let him face the judgment of all warriors. The attendant in the dungeon suddenly felt the snowflake sword become unusually agitated. Then, Chao Yunjin appeared before him. He drew the snowflake sword and launched an attack. Because the snowflake's sensing ability could never be wrong. Chao Yunjin is the one who practices the blood demon technique. Facing someone who slaughters the innocent like this, he directly unleashed the heaven-destroying shadow sword for 5 yuan. He was caught by Chao Yunjin's ugly hand. When he was about to continue fighting, he was confronted by the rushing prison guards. Chao Yunjin had no choice but to give up. Then he flew away to escape. If you were given a chance to soar to new heights, would you go all out to seize it? Cloud Heaven established the Crimson Demon Squad, and it attracted a swarm of poison dancers eager to join. On the day of the selection, the place was packed. It was incredibly lively. But just as the examiner announced the rules, only those with outstanding achievements and a recommender would be accepted. This rule is extremely unfair to the dancers in the audience. It has sparked public outrage among the poison dancers. At this point, the examiner announced that we have decided to start in another way. We will hold a public trial for one person. This warrior called Beijing should be familiar to everyone. He is a descendant of Baishanman. Now there is evidence indicating he has colluded with Mai. Therefore, we have decided to replace the opening ceremony of the Crimson Demon team with a public verdict on Beijing. Isn't participating in the trial of the public enemy of the martial arts world a glorious feat? As witnesses, can't all of you join the Crimson Demon Squad? However, the martial artists below didn't know this was a ploy by the Cloud Summit's upper echelon. They all quietly agreed, waiting to enter. As numerous martial artists walked through the gate, a group of people appeared behind them. It was the Iron Cavalry Hall members, who had just arrived after a long journey. After seeing the situation clearly, Long Hao instructed everyone to be cautious in their actions. Meanwhile, the leader of the law enforcement hall led Chen Wuyuan through a dark corridor. At the end of the corridor was today's meeting venue. Chen Wuyuan looked down from the platform. Countless dancers gathered below, chanting for his judgment. Before he could think too much, after a passionate speech by the tongue tip, the judge, Nam Sun Wu, immediately declared the trial to begin. The atmosphere had been heightened to its peak by him. Then he pointed to the crew member. He is our protagonist, the sinner, Bukin. Today, his father betrayed the Cloud Palace 10 years ago. He ultimately paid the price. The Cloud Palace spared his life. In the end, they didn't wipe them out completely. But Bei Jian, as the son of a traitor, killed many innocent warriors in Yanchengshan. Like father, like son. He may have already prepared to betray us. The ignorant dancers below suddenly shouted excitedly to kill him. The crew felt the murderous shouts, wondering if his father had ever experienced such a situation. He must have felt so lonely at that time. I finally understand his bleak feelings back then. What my father experienced 10 years ago is now replaying in my life. The crew member begins to narrate slowly and then raises his voice in righteous indignation. I was once the guardian of the North Wall, Chen Guanhao. I am also the 5th-generation gatekeeper of the North Gate. North Ship crew member. His righteous voice echoed throughout the sky. It lingered in the venue for a long time. I am Chen Guanhao, the guardian of the Northern Great Barrier. I am also the 5th-generation gatekeeper of Baishanman, Beijing Chen Warren. The anger that had been suppressed in my heart for decades erupted at this moment. Chen Wuyuan took a deep breath. You all live peaceful lives, yet busy forming factions and fighting among themselves. They actually have the nerve to say we are in communication with Ming Yi. The ones who truly betrayed us are the four lords of Baidian. Just then, Lian Tianhua, exuding a powerful presence, slowly stepped forward with the same voice. Exceptional eloquence. Child, you speak very well. In the moment their eyes met, the air around them felt as sharp and menacing as blades. Lianhua folded his arms across his chest. You're saying that Yunzhanshan and the four pillars of Baidian betrayed Baidian Gate and destroyed it? To hear the truth from the mouth of a traitor after decades, it's truly heartbreaking. My uncle, look into my eyes. Answer me again. The detective was completely enraged by this. How dare you disrespect me like this? The attendant twisted her neck. I knew it all along. You and Xiao Tianyu are the main contributors to the annihilation of the Baishanman family. Today is the day the truth comes to light. Behind Lu Shan was an elderly man with no arms or legs. The moment he saw the old man's face, Tianhua knew the situation was exposed. Shi Jian was about to eliminate him, but he was blocked by Chen Wuyuan and the others. Now that things had come to this point, they could only eliminate Chen Wuyuan. He casually tossed aside the cloak behind him. His eyes blazed with a strange fire. He held his sword, poised. Chen Wuyuan hesitated no longer. He slowly crawled out of the snow. I am Chen Wuyuan, the 5th-generation leader of the North Heavenly Gate. Now, I will execute this shameless traitor. The snowflake spun gently in his hand. He unleashed the extermination of the heavenly demon shadow sword. Lian Tianhua watched as he cultivated the strength that rightfully belonged to him. He also freely displayed his signature move, the infinite sword of the heavens. After several rounds of sword fighting between the two, they both left gushing wounds on each other. Having made a name for himself long ago, Lian Tianhua wielded a heavy sword enveloped in ghostly flames. He slowly approached the attendant. Suddenly, he leaped into the air. With a loud shout, light and shadow explode. A painful sound. A sword aura shoots down from the sky. The platform beneath the struggling attendant shakes violently. Suddenly, the snowflakes erupt with dazzling purple light. The attendant turns and slashes Lin Tianhua's face. Experienced Lin Tianhua counters with a sword thrust to his abdomen. Then, severely injured, Chen Wuyuan dodges like a shadow. He was mortally wounded. There wasn't a single intact spot on the ground where the two fought. At this moment, Tianhua prepared to unleash the unity of man and sword. Flames erupted fiercely from his body. The sword energy mixed with the flames struck towards Chen Wuyuan. Chen Wuyuan soared several feet into the air. A vortex of sword energy, dancing with snowflakes, descended from above. After a thunderous sound echoed across the sky, the surrounding sword masters all collapsed. Lien Tianhua, limping, pointed his sword at you. Chen Wu Yuan, you've been able to withstand my sword for so long. You're already very strong. Chen Wu Yuan lowered his head. He mumbled something to himself. As soon as Lien Tianhua approached, he suddenly looked up. The snow sword was emitting an eerie purple flame. Then, he took steps in a nine-palace formation. An enormous whirlwind of sword energy formed instantly. Lien Tianhua was defenseless against the thread-like purple sword energy. As the final move of the extermination demon Shadow Sword, breaking heaven, came down, Lien Tianhua spurted blood from his chest. The legendary sword god, Ghost Sword, Lien Tianhua, fell to his knees before the steward. The crew member knew this was just the beginning of revenge, because he had already embarked on an irreversible path of endless bloodshed. Who would have thought that after Chen Weiyuan personally killed the traitor Lien Tianhua, he would hear a shocking secret? In a moment of confusion, Lien Tianhua whispered in Chen Weiyuan's ear that there was a mysterious force in the martial arts world that we didn't know about. It seems your father knew about it long ago. He just never brought it up. We only learned about this after leaving the northern desert, but we didn't turn a blind eye to it. You must uncover the truth. Restore your father's honor, and clear the world's name. The higher-ups in the audience never considered that Lien Tianhua could be defeated, but the one who defeated Lien Tianhua is even more impressive. But damaging Yun Zhongtian's precious assets is a serious crime. If no one compensates for it, he will still face the death penalty. Tang Qimen heard that compensation would lead to immunity from punishment, and immediately decided that the Tang clan, the Hongmeng sect, the Volcano sect, and the Wushan sect would compensate for all the losses. Yun Zhongtian and his group were stunned. Because of his appearance, the entire Jianghu was thrown into turmoil. The attendant looked up towards the platform. With a strong voice, he shouted, "Left one who sent an assassin to kill me. Therefore, I acted in self-defense. My father had nothing to do with the collusion between the rice industry and Yuan Tianhua. This is enough to prove the conspiracy and betrayal of the four lords of the north. Do I need to demonstrate my martial arts skills? Is there any question about my identity as a descendant of the North Heaven Gate? Do you still think I'm a sinner? Since I have already proven my innocence, I can continue to stay in Yun's Hongshan, right?" Words that pierced the heart left everyone on site speechless. Shimen Huilin felt that he was much more capable than she had imagined. Because of the matter with Zhuo Wenhu, he was sweating profusely. He was thinking about how to face the investigation of the hand and brain department next. Xia Xiaofeng was so excited he was trembling all over. "He's the man I chose. I can't wait to get on stage and fight him." Xiao Yunjing, wearing a black cloak, stood in the crowd. "This 5 yuan guy is amazing. He's downright frightening. I really hate these exceptionally gifted people." Now both of them have become figures feared by Yun Zhongtian. Chen Weiyuan limped down from the high platform. Xia Jinyue hurriedly stepped forward to hug him. "What an impressive guy. No wonder he's my main character." Tang Meili blushed as she watched him from a distance. Due to Chen Weiyuan's continuous overloaded battles, continue to heal as quickly as possible. Everyone gathered and prepared to leave. Chen Weiyuan's keen eyes scanned the square. The dancers in front were still in shock. They all made way for a path, walking among the crowd, thinking of what Lien Tianhua said before he died. "You have already begun to walk down an infinite path of blood. Are you ready to face all of this?" Chen Wu Yuan, brimming with confidence, took a bold stride forward. "Let the storm rage even harder." Fearless. Since the establishment of Yun Zhongtian, the steward's performance has left a lasting impression on all the heroes. Few have ascended the historical stage in such a manner. Not only did he prove his innocence, he also cleared his father's name. The high-ranking officials of Cloud Heaven dare not continue to oppress the employees, fearing the will once again unleash a bloody storm. These topics became the talk of the town for the poison dancers in an instant. Due to the destruction of the original venue, the Holy Demon Team's activities could only be carried out on a temporary stage. However, people's attention was no longer on them when Chen Wu Yuan and his group arrived at the Tang family's mansion. Because Dong Xiaoping, who helped Chen Wu Yuan and his son achieve their ordinary dream without regrets, finally couldn't hold on and fell down. In the blink of an eye, Chen Weiyuan had been healing for many days. Now, everyone knows his name in Beijing. On this day, Tang Qimen brought Lu Shan, who had just finished the selection for the Red Demon Team, and approached. Lu Shan's appearance was very unique. It turns out that after being beaten hundreds of times, he instead ended the fight with just one punch. He even earned the title of Blood Circle Wulong. Inside the secret room, Chen Wu Yuan, who is healing his wounds, is wrapped up like a rice dumpling. He's lost in thought. Since stepping into the world of martial arts, the people and things he has encountered, the world of martial arts is far more vast and mysterious than you can imagine. The world we know is not the whole picture. The dark side has always existed, and it's also very ugly. Now there is a mysterious force in the martial arts world that we do not understand. What exactly are they referring to? Chen Weiyuan, feeling troubled, stood in the pool of blood like a monster. He then shook his head. "As long as I follow my own beliefs, my heart will not waver. I have been in seclusion for a long time to heal. I was feeling a bit and decided to go outside for some fresh air. As soon as I stepped into the courtyard, I ran into Tommy, who was delivering medicine. Tommy blushed and said, you need to get better soon. When you're healthy and standing in front of me again, I have a gift for you. Just as Chen Weiyuan was about to ask what the gift was, Guan Dishang, the Grand Steward of Yun's Hongshan, arrived unexpectedly. After apologizing profusely, Yun's Hongshan decided not to take any disciplinary action against Chen Weiyuan. The case of the destruction of Baishanmen 10 years ago will be re-examined. Because of the lapse of time, evidence needs to be recollected, but they will definitely clear the name of Chen Guanhao, the sect master. He then hurriedly took his leave. On the other side, the four wands of the secret page have prepared a new body for the owner. After the preparation ceremony, they will start their invasion of the Central Plains. 9 heavens above. In the 9-tiered pavilion, stands an elderly man with his father's sword on his back. He is the Red Knight, real person of the 9 heavens Wudong sect. His heart is filled with shock. Even the Skyflower, whom he had recognized, was defeated. Suddenly, he turns sharply towards the door. It was I who saved you. You should just come out obediently. At this moment, an old man dressed in black walked in from outside. Ma Bai really does have a keen nose. Do you still have the jade dew wine you brewed? It turns out he is the old man Chen Weiyuan met during the Black Moon. He is also Ing Junhui, the master of Jiutian Fengyun Manor. After finishing the wine, Ing Junhui said, you don't need to worry. I'm too lazy to interfere in your petty matters. I'm just here to catch up with an old friend and have a drink. I'll be on my way. And thank you for the fine wine. On the day of the World Demon Martial Arts Tournament Finals, Chen Weiyuan, fully recovered from his injuries, stood in the crowd. Suddenly, a rough voice came from behind him. Isn't that Bei Jian, who has risen to fame the fastest in the martial world? He turned around to take a look. It turns out to be Long Hao, the leader of the Iron Cavalry. After some boasting, Long Hao reminds everyone to stay vigilant at all times. If any defense task is needed, they can find him anytime. He then turns and leaves. At this moment, Nan Shanyu on the platform calls out to welcome everyone to witness the birth of the Crimson Demon Team's captain. The captain of the Crimson Demon Team will confront the hidden wilderness at the forefront of the Jianghu. He will bring hope to the Jianghu, open a brand new future. Now, let's welcome the organizers of this selection competition. They are the guardians of the cloud and the world, the Buddhist shadow monk from Xiaolinci and the true master of Wudong, Xia. The 4 seas are separated by the divine tree sea. Although the members of Jiutian could not all be present, it is already a great honor to have these 3 Jiutian members witness this. The attendants saw the 3 people appear on stage. Thinking about how my father died to protect me, Han Yun. For a moment, my jaw clenched shut. My hands were clenched so tightly that they creaked. At that moment, the British troops would appear behind me. Could you hold back that impulse? Good. The steward also recognized him as the Lord of Wind and Cloud Manor. The old man said apologetically, even if you seek revenge on Yun Zhongtian, I won't stop you either. Even if you want to kill me, I'll accept it willingly. But it's not time to face the world yet. So I hope you can suppress your impulsiveness, because the members of the 9 are all bound by their respective shackles, so they can't be untied by ordinary methods. Now you, a wild card, have appeared. That mysterious force will gradually come to light. You must really think carefully about what I've said. When the attendant looks up again, the old man has already vanished. Indeed, the battle on the high platform is coming to an end. As Xinyuan software, like a dragon and snake, slowly descends, Nanshan calls out congratulations to Si Hai and Xin Xiaoxia for their ultimate victory. It's the captain of the demon team. All the support is his. He gave up his high-paying job and chose to start his own business with the new boss. Mu Shang threw the secret Tang token at Yu Shengchuan's feet. I have another master to serve now. I've always been grateful for your guidance. Yu Shengchuan, filled with anger, calmed himself down. You think you can run wild in Yun's Hongshan just because you're with Chen Weiyuan? You and Chen Weiyuan, with your arrogant attitude, won't live long. Mu didn't bother to reply. He walked out directly. He saw the intelligence just delivered outside. He didn't know until he saw it. He was shocked. He found that the intelligence contained news that Chen Weiyuan cared about deeply. He knew this information was, get the things and rush to the Tang family's manor. Inform Chen Weiyuan immediately. On the other side, the relatives, according to the items provided by Chen Weiyuan, followed the trail. They found Xiao Yunjin's hideout. They discovered that all the dancers below were tattooed with the double-sided azura. Suddenly, Xiao Yunjin appeared above them. Since when did you start following me? The pedestrian sensed danger, quickly fled the scene, but was still struck by him. Blood flowed all over his body. In the end, 2 fists couldn't fight against 4 hands. He was knocked to the ground by a group of double-faced azuras. Xiao Yunjin slowly crouched down. Now you can tell me who sent you here. But as the honeymoon of the Black Moon, the family chose to remain silent. With a bang, they used Earth Escape to retreat, but they were quickly intercepted by the dual-faced Azura. In a critical moment, the Earth Spirit blocked a fatal blow for him. Meanwhile, the crew received the emergency signal from the wind chime and rushed over quickly. They looked at their severely injured family member. The flight attendant didn't hesitate and pulled out a snowflake, consecutively cutting down several people. Seeing the mastermind behind the scenes appear, Xiao Yunjin ordered his subordinates to stop attacking. Chen Weiyuan saw him and also confirmed that the two-faced Azura was connected to him. Xiao Yunjin scratched his head. Arrogant arrogantly saying, "You must not attempt to understand the two-faced Azura. If you do, it won't just be you. Even the people around you will fall into endless danger. I truly do not want to be your enemy. This is my final advice to you. That clown has been hit by the soul separation needle. You should treat him as soon as possible. Chen Weiyuan knows that saving him is urgent. Put away the snowflakes." Rushing back to the edge of the Tang family, holding on to loved ones, under the careful treatment of Tang Meili and her nephew, he temporarily escaped the danger of death. Seeing his loved ones get hurt while doing things for him, Chen Weiyuan felt deep guilt. At that moment, Mei Yueling suddenly visited, to inquire about the injuries of his loved ones. Knowing that she had been successfully treated by Tang Qimen, she left with peace of mind. Because of her family ties, He Yu was now completely tied to Chen Weiyuan's big ship. At this time, Mu Shang rushed over and told Chen Weiyuan about the news he had just overheard. Chen Weiyuan, after listening, suddenly emitted a powerful killing intent. She's a ruthless female demon who kills without blinking, and she's the man's beloved. ENGSUB, who had been out on a training journey, arrived in the heart of the Central Plains after several months. She swiftly and ruthlessly wiped out the thieves who were pursuing her. These thieves had harmed a merchant caravan she had once helped. They also called her a witch, and they wanted to kill her. Forced into a corner, ENGSUB naturally wouldn't just sit back and wait to be killed. I can only punish them accordingly. But among the thieves killed, there was actually someone from the Azure Dragon Society. ENGSUB doesn't regret killing them directly. When dealing with enemies, she's just a cold-hearted witch. On the Azure Dragon Society side, Xia Xiaofeng received a distress signal. It said that a witch's presence was detected near Beiwu. He didn't hesitate for a second before heading out to confront this witch. Xia Xiaofeng approached menacingly to take a look. The so-called witch was actually the woman who was with the flight attendant at the North Heavenly Gate 7 years ago. ENGSUB asked in confusion, "Who are you? Do you know me? And I'm not a witch." Hearing him ask this, Xia Xiaofeng guessed that he might have lost his memory due to cultivating some kind of technique. He then pointed to the wreckage behind ENGSUB and asked, "What's with all of this? They attacked me first." Xia Xiaofeng continued to ask Miss En, "Do you remember which sect you belong to?" He then described the 4 magic wands in the martial arts world, guessing that she might be the current White Knight witch, ENGSUB, and her identity was revealed. She started to slowly prepare for the ceremony. "I prefer people to call me the White Knight Fairy." After speaking, the Moonlight Will rose and attacked Xia Xiaofeng. With strong fighting spirit, Xia Xiaofeng refused to back down. He clenched his fists to face the enemy. After a loud rumble, both sides were evenly matched. As the smoke cleared, Xia Xiaofeng's fists were emitting pure energy, white flames. He was going to use the holy light stream he just mastered. ENGSUB felt a terrifying aura. A 3-ring light machine formed instantly. The rapidly spinning Moonlight Will affected Xia Xiaofeng's vision. He teleported to Xia Xiaofeng's side in a flash. With a poof, he grabbed Xia Xiaofeng's shoulder, making blood spurt out. Xia Xiaofeng endured the pain. He turned and landed a heavy punch, sending him flying. The punch struck him squarely in the face. Instantly, he spat out blood. Just as he prepared to control the Moonlight Gate to attack, he was tightly held by Xia Xiaofeng with both hands. Then they flew into the moonlight. With a heavy thud, they crashed to the ground. In an instant, ENGSUB broke free and soared into the air. With dozens of feet, he lifted the massive Moonlight Wheel and flew towards Xia Xiaofeng. Xia Xiaofeng hadn't encountered such a powerful opponent in a long time. He prepared to use all his strength. His arms transformed the true energy into gigantic fists that rolled continuously. He raised his fists to greet the arrival of the huge Moonlight Wheel. As a cloud of smoke dispersed, he realized how difficult ENGSUB was to deal with. Suddenly, a pair of arms condensed from true energy extended from his back. So this was the martial art he prepared to deal with the soul demon. He didn't expect it to be forced out by ENGSUB. A duel between masters has always been a clash of powerful skills against souls. Suddenly, a long sword plunged into ENGSUB's body with a poochie sound. It seems there was a survivor from before who didn't die. They were sneaking a sneak attack. ENGSUB pulled out the long sword, gritting her teeth in pain. She used her hand to cover the wound. With a swift motion, he dealt with the person who had just ambushed him. Xia Xiaofeng took the opportunity to grab the severely injured ENGSUB. "I originally wanted to truly defeat you, but you can't take a life, so I can only understand you now." At that moment, a voice filled with killing intent came from behind him. "Please let go of that hand." He would do anything to save the woman he loved, even if it meant fighting the whole world. The attendant learned of ENGSUB's whereabouts and wished he could fly to her side. Mu Shanggan, meanwhile, ordered his men to be on alert. Just as Xia Xiaofeng was about to strike, his voice, full of killing intent, rang out. "Please let go of your dirty hands." Seeing that the newcomer was from Beijing, Xia Xiaofeng gently relaxed her grip. ENGSUB stumbled and pushed aside. At this moment, ENGSUB was in a very chaotic state. Due to the metal used in the rose, she was on the verge of losing control. Xia Xiaofeng, on the other hand, respectfully cupped her fists. "I feel heavy in my heart. Long time no see. I don't know why you appeared. The woman I was with back then, how could she appear before me as a white-clad witch?" Chen Weiyuan turned to protect Xiaoshui. "When I was helpless, he was the first to enter my heart. He was the one who gave me a lot of strength when I was standing alone. As for who he is, I don't know either. After the chaos assault, he left me. It was only after 7 years that I reunited with him. Xia Xiaofeng spread his hands and said, but this woman's true identity is the White Night Witch. She's not only Yun's Hongshan's enemy, but also killed many people. You were cleared of your false charges not long ago. As a friend, I truly hope you don't get involved. Chen Wu Yuan sighed again. Go. Leave him to me. Seeing that he wouldn't compromise, Xia Xiaofeng began to narrate slowly. Since you refuse to cooperate, I have no choice but to use force against him. Chen Weiyuan also slowly drew his Shuehua. Please, Xia Dongjia. Xia Xiaofeng leaped into the air with a punch. The company still needs to be clearly distinguished. A rumbling sound echoed across the sky. Chen Weiyuan blocked his powerful strike with his sword, but Yin Xiaoxue could no longer control herself. The heart's demons completely erupted. With a crack of his teeth, a massive explosion of steam and light burst forth. Chen Weiyue, worried about Yin Xiaoxue's injuries, had no mood to fight Xia Xiaofeng. This left Xia Xiaofeng quite frustrated. Is this what you call love and affection? Perhaps I was moved by this sincere love. Let's stop here today. We'll fight again another day. I hope you won't disappoint my trust, Chen. Let's stop him from going astray first, then turn and leave. The flight attendant walks with difficulty towards the steam dome, calling out Xiaoxue's name. I'm here, calm down. Disturbed, Xiaoxue's aura becomes more unstable. A huge steam vortex forms instantly, crashing towards the attendant. The attendant, resisting the pressure, smoothly arrives by his side, tightly holding him in their arms. Stroking his head, he gently whispered in her ear, I really miss you. Xiaoxue felt the familiar scent of the flight attendant. Memories of their time together 7 years ago quickly resurfaced. Then she leaned into the flight attendant's embrace, tears streaming down her face. As he settled down, a huge vortex of steam transformed into swirling clouds all around, leaving only the two lovers tightly embraced. If protecting the woman he loved meant betraying the whole world, what will you do? Chen Weiyuan looked at Yin Xiaoxue, whom he hadn't seen in 7 years. I really miss you. Xiaoxue, I'm here for you. It's all right now. Xiaoxue looked at Chen Weiyuan, who was covered in wounds. What on earth happened? I'm sorry. Did I hurt you? Just as the two were entangled in intimacy, the moon wheel launched an attack on Chen Weiyuan. Yin Xiaoxue quickly waved her hand to stop it, but the moon wheel was completely out of control. Chen Weiyuan could only swing his sword to fend it off. At that moment, a hidden weapon filled with poison needles flew in. Xiaoxue raised her hand to erect a barrier of true energy to block it, but the poison needles still flew through the barrier at high speed. In the end, Yin Xiaoxue was hit by several poison needles. The undead that released the poison needles was instantly captured on the grave. Yin Xiaoxue never even considered that the undead who had accompanied her since childhood would turn against her. Bai Yi Fairy absolutely cannot have human emotions. She can only become a weapon for killing. You are destined to become a being that instills fear in the dancers of the Central Plains. In order to train you, I spent 7 years erasing your memories. I even used the moonlight wheel to cultivate you. And now that you have feelings, everything has gone to waste. It's all because of Chen Weiyuan's appearance. After learning the truth, Yin Xiaoxue roared. So what if I have feelings? I will give it my all. I'm really confused right now. Does Master know about this? At this moment, the undead is also very sad about the enemy of Mai. The heir of Baishanman has developed feelings. What more can you do? Your master's order is to eliminate the failed creations immediately. We don't need an imperfect white knight fairy. We can always find someone else to train. After hearing her words, Yin Xiaoxue felt a shift in her heart. It turned out that the master didn't fully trust her either. In that moment, her blood surged, and her whole body trembled. The poison struck, leaving her paralyzed in Chen Weiyuan's arms. Seeing the woman he loved in such pain, Chen Weiyuan could no longer contain his fury. He ordered the gravekeeper to immediately slay the undead, but he was struck and sent flying by the moonlight wheel. The undead seized this opportunity to escape. Because of Xiaoxue's poisoning, the crew dared not delay for a moment, and had to give up. At the Tang family villa over here, Tang Meili heard the footsteps of the attendant, and went to greet them with the new clothes prepared for her. But she saw Chen Weiyuan hurriedly coming over, holding an elderly woman with white hair. At that moment, a mix of emotions surged within her. Because the situation was urgent, there was no time to explain to everyone. Everything would have to wait until she was treated before discussing countermeasures. Her sudden move drives the military pact crazy. Throughout history, heroes have been defeated by beauty. I never thought 5 Yuan would do this. It seems my plan needs to be adjusted further. Meanwhile, on the newly built wall of the former North Heaven Gate site, a few red devils are playing around. Suddenly, a strange arm reaches towards the wall. 18 years ago, the North Heavenly Gate was reduced to ruins in a great fire. Now, on the ruins of the North Heavenly Gate, a second city wall has been erected. As the haunting sound of a zither echoes from afar, the Heavenly Palace's dark melody leads Yin Tianhe and the Secret Leaf Vanguard into a full-scale attack on Yun Zhongtian. Under the total assault from the Secret Leaf, the North Heavenly Gate's weaving defense is instantly breached. Receiving the rescue message, Captain Xin Yuan of the Crimson Devil team leads many experts from the Azure Dragon Society to move quickly. That day, Lu Shan, who was out procuring medicinal herbs, was lured to the 9 dragons by Shimen Huiling. After Shimen Huilin showered Amon with praise, Lu Shan, intoxicated, let slip a secret. He realized he might have committed a grave error, but it was too late. Shimen Huilin and the head steward had already surrounded Tang Manor with warriors to search for the White Knight Witch, a member of the demon cult. They accused the stewards and the Tang clan of acts that would shake the foundations of Yunzhong Tian. We need to search the Tang family villa. It's urgent. The attendant must immediately arrange for the non-combatants to leave Yunzhanshan with Mu Shang. Mu Shang wanted him to leave with them. The attendant went and refused. Because we all have suffered a lot of harm, so I should be the one to solve all the problems. Guan, the steward, watched him with such determination. In the end, I knew it would come to bloodshed. The crew member, Shi Jianer, stood up. A loud voice rang out. After all, you will find all sorts of reasons to eliminate me, and here I am, a woman with nowhere to go. You're just reacting to some nonsense spoken by that reckless fool, risking enmity with the Tang clan to eliminate me. Too much talk. I don't want to explain further. If you want blood, then come at me. The chief steward waved his hand. The poisoned dancers surged forward. The decisive Chen Wuyuan struck one down with each sword. Wherever he goes, the enemies are all struck down by his bloodied sword. With a single move, he watches more and more dancers surge forth like a tide. He then displays a total of 81 swords into the air in succession. A terrifying snowflake sword formation instantly takes shape. In the next moment, the enemy is sent flying into the air like a kite by the sword formation. In this way, more than half of the thousands of warriors brought by Shimen Huiling were instantly taken away by the strange snowflakes. Then he casually killed another participating warrior. He approached Chief Guan. Why didn't you bring the two-faced Shura? Chief Guan didn't expect him to find out so quickly that the two-faced Shura was related to him. Since you know the secret of the two-faced Shura, then today, everyone, including you, must be eradicated. Is this the way Yun Zhongtian dominates the world? Don't worry, I will make this public. Just as he was about to kill Guan, the mastermind behind it all, Chao Yunjin, hidden in the shadows, appeared with a pair of double-faced Azuras, blocking his path. This sword is called the Snow Sword. It's 5 feet and 3 inches long. Once it's drawn, all evil in the world will be revealed. Its purpose is to avenge and redress wrongs. Chao Yunjin's appearance was completely within Chen Wu Yuan's expectations. You finally decided to show yourself. Double-faced Azura, Chao Yunjin said with a shocked expression. My good little brother, you still ended up causing trouble. I clearly warned you. How could you make things even worse? Are you missing me, Snowflake? With a loud boom, snowflakes descended. I felt the aura of my enemy start to buzz. Then the purple demonic energy formed a misty female figure floating behind the flight attendant. Snowflake, your time for revenge has come. Please, unleash your power. Chao Yunjin, with dark red ghostly flames swirling around his hands, was very confused. Why does this sword go crazy as soon as it sees him? With a serious expression, Chen Wuyuan rushed forward with the sword toward Chao Yunjin. Dual-faced Azura. What exactly are you? Join us, and I will tell you. To put it simply, we are the two secret leaves, because the secret leaves are disobedient. This organization was created just in case. Every faction has our planted spies, and key individuals we are training. Talents like you are very welcome with us. Join us. It's not too late. Otherwise, I'll have to kill you myself. Don't be ridiculous. You're willing to kill innocent people to get the demon palace. What's the difference between that and what we do? Look at all the poisoners behind you who have been killed. Don't they have their own feelings of love? Don't they have a warm family? They just want to complete their tasks. There is no absolute good or evil in this world. Look at you now. Aren't you also in a position above the predators? Aren't you also enjoying the thrill of wielding a knife to kill? Enjoying the process of those skilled people collapsing under you? What difference is there now between you and me? Although you will sweep away the obstacles, aren't you a blood-sucking devil? Your piercing words make Chen Wuyuan's inner demons rage. Yes, you're absolutely right. I am indeed a devil with blood on my hands. I am an ugly and cowardly human. But fighting to protect is different from fighting to plunder. The two are entirely different. Wu Yuan, stop deceiving yourself. We're the same kind of people. Take a good look at the traces of your massacre. The blood around here. The blood magic of the molten cross demon is a great help. He raised his hands, supporting the blood around him. He rose up into the sky. The layers of blood mist formed instantly, engulfing Chen Wu Yuan. The next second, Chen Wu Yuan slashed through the blood mist with his sword. The ever-changing extinction demon shadow sword clashed with the cross-blood magic tool. With the cross-blood magic tool's tight defense, after several rounds, only a few sword marks remained on Chao Yunjin. Chen Wu Yuan quickly erected the snowflake sword formation. After a rumbling sound, Chen Wu Yuan was forced to retreat repeatedly. The smoke dissipated. What appeared before him was the soul demon eunuch he had killed 10 years ago. He had clearly been killed 7 years ago in the ruins of North Heavenly Gate. Now, seeing the soul demon resurrected, Chen Wuyuan's mind was filled with doubt. The one who instigated the turmoil in Mai was actually taking orders from Guan, the overseer. Chen Wuyuan looked at the soul demon. You, too, are a man of Yunzhangshan? I don't belong to either side. I possess an immortal body. Many things are beyond my control. I was simply caught by their leverage. Chao Yunjin also walked out from the ruins behind him. Chen Wuyuan, this ends today. For a moment, he was caught in a double bind. Chen Wuyuan felt a bit stuck. Right now, there's no confidence in fighting against two cultivators of demonic arts at the same time. Also shocked by the resurrection of the mixed demon was Shi Manhuiling in the distance. Shi Manhuiling covered her mouth with both hands. She seemed to have guessed something. The cunning and wily Chief Steward Guan said with great conviction, "Just as you can see. Isn't it interesting?" However, the mixed demon only listens to that one. Father is the true ruler of the underworld. If you're still curious, then I'll tell you. Grandfather, Shi Manhwa, knows everything. The underworld is more unpredictable than you imagine. We are all trapped in this abyss. You just need to keep obeying us, like your grandfather did. The chief officer shouts to the distant demons. I apologize for making you face such a powerful enemy right after waking up. Please deal with it as soon as possible. The Demon King patted his head after hearing this. He moved his feet. The kid from North Heavenly Gate. Let me see if you've grown in these 7 years. Looking at the two people rushing towards him, Chen Wuyuan took several steps backward. Under the combined force of their attacks, a massive crater, tens of meters deep, was gouged into the ground. The dust settled. The two saw Chen Wuyuan had dodged the attack, moving with the grace of a shadow. The attendant thought to himself that he had to find a way to end the fight quickly. If they were allowed to synchronize their movements, there would be no chance left. He slashed towards the sky, striking out 9,981 times. The swirling sword energy could only slow them down for a moment. Finally, he used his Ziri steps to move between the two, looking for an opportunity. When the time was right, he attacked them directly with his Extermination Heaven, no Shadow Sword. The demon sword wielded his Extermination Heaven, no Shadow Sword again. A surge of excitement. He charged straight into the sword energy vortex, relying on his immortal body. Snowflakes descended. She also sensed something behind her. It was Chao Yunjin manipulating the blood with his blood cross devil art. In an instant, the thick blood entangled Chen Wuyuan's feet. The demon seized the opportunity. With both hands, he instantly formed a swirling descent. His eyes glimmered with golden light as he lunged at Chen Wuyuan. Just when he thought Chen Wuyuan would surely die at his hands today, a golden heavy fist suddenly appeared in midair. In the next moment, it directly struck his face. This man was only 16 years old but could dominate thousands. Even the top experts in the martial world are no match for him. Just as the devil was about to finish off the steward with a punch, he was suddenly sent flying by a heavy punch from Xia Xiaofeng. His appearance disrupted all of Manager Guan's plans. Young Master Xia, we are dealing with the fundamental criminal behind Yungong Yuntian. Please do not interfere. What if I insist on interfering? Right now, death is also attacking us. You are using thousands of people in the back to capture a so-called criminal. And why is the mixed demon appearing here? Are you trying to go against Yun Zhongtian's orders now? No matter how you punish me, I will accept it. But do you really think I came unprepared? I know too well about the martial world you speak of. You are actually just a wolf in sheep's clothing. I want to create an entirely new martial world. Once those words were spoken, the steward was trembling with anger. It seems you are still stubbornly clinging to your beliefs. Think what you want. I want to be myself again. After saying that, I ignored him. I turned to the attendant. Chen, you really are in trouble again. The grateful crew member said. Thank you for your kindness. I don't want to put you in a difficult position because of my issues. Xia Xiaofeng stared at the soul demon emerging from the dust. I have a grudge against that monster. It's not your concern. The illusion demon realized that the one who had just knocked it away was actually a former subordinate it had defeated 7 years ago. Jing Hao, you brat. I will make you lose to me again. Xia Xiaofeng's fists cracked as he clenched them. To defeat you. I've been in seclusion in the cave for 7 years. I'm eager to beat you flat. Leave the city lord, Han Mo, to me. You deal with that disgusting guy first. After saying this, they both flew towards their opponents. Xia Xiaofeng swung his holy light fist. Chaos, I have waited too long for this day. The moment the two big fists collided, the shockwave shattered the ground all around. The exhilarating feeling of fists hitting flesh. These two guys who specialize in physical training probably haven't experienced this pleasure in a long time. After a few rounds, Xia Xiaofeng shouted, Holy light flow. The mixed demon is also unwilling to back down. The primal flame demon palace. The two, their fighting spirit reaching its peak, lunged at each other. At the same time, two jets of steam of different colors exploded simultaneously. On the other side of the battlefield, the two attendants also adopted a hard-hitting approach. You punch me once, I will return your sword. Every wound is gushing out a large amount of blood, just as Chao Yunjin exchanged a shoulder for the snowflake sword. The next moment, the sword spirit which emitted a strong resentment. She was trapped and unable to move. The witch's eyes were filled with hot tears, eager to swallow her immediately. Without the sword, Chen Wuyuan suddenly performed Chao Qianyo's technique. The unparalleled skill of the 3 heads and 6 arms instantly engulfed Chao Yunjin. Chao Yunjin never even imagined that his father's unique skill would be successfully mastered by him. After a loud rumble, the snowflakes returned to Chen Wuyuan's hands. Filled with the fury of the priestess, he charged at Chao Yunjin again with the sword. With the sound of flesh being sliced, one of Chao Yunjin's arms was severed. Even worse, he was also slashed in the abdomen. Thus, Chao Yunjin, who had been practicing the blood demon technique, finally collapsed from excessive blood loss. He swayed unsteadily and fell down. Xuehua, having succeeded in her revenge, expressed her joy. Seeing that Xia Xiaofeng's battle was still undecided, she couldn't afford to recover her strength. She quickly joined their fight. The illusion demon finally fell at a disadvantage under their powerful assault. Sensing death, the chaos demon became even more excited. A towering vortex of grey true energy rose up behind him. The two attendants' eyes burned with an eerie, fiery glow. They unleashed their strongest attack. The moment their true energies collided, the sky instantly turned black. Then, 3 whirlwinds of true energy resonated throughout the heavens like an atomic bomb explosion. The dust settled. Even the soul demon, with its immortal body, was finally brought down, lying lifeless in a pool of blood. The 2 crew members sat on the ground, gasping for breath for quite a while, because the danger was not yet over. They did not dare to linger. Xia Xiaofeng instructed Chen Weiyuan to leave Yun Zhongtian immediately. He took charge and told Chen Weiyuan to quickly reorganize the team. They were to create a brand new world together. Not long after Chen Weiyuan left, the chaotic figure in the ruins suddenly stood up without warning. Xia Xiaofeng saw that he didn't even give him a chance to catch his breath. Without saying a word, he charged forward with a punch. Due to the speed, only the shadows of the two could be seen. After a series of powerful punches, Han Mo was sent flying. Their fighting style was extremely brutal and violent. After a few rounds, Xia Xiaofeng's arms were tightly grasped by the demon of chaos. He was trying to absorb Xia Xiaofeng's internal energy to use it for himself. Unwilling to be outdone, Xia Xiaofeng suddenly grew 4 true energy arms from his back. Since you want to absorb, then I'll burst you. I'll burst all the blood vessels in your body. Let's see how you respond. Sure enough, after a large amount of true energy was injected, the soul demon began to swell. The next second, its body couldn't withstand it and exploded directly. Xia Xiaofeng seized the opportunity and delivered a holy light punch once again. This time, the soul demon fully sensed the arrival of death. Remember, the entire martial world is like a massive vortex, and in this world, there's no absolute good or evil. This is all the demon's plot. Xia Xiaozi, 5ms completed. Thank you for helping me in this hellish life. Watching the fading soul demon, Xia Xiaofeng let out a long cry to the sky. Another secret unknown to the world. What else is hidden in this world of martial arts? This man survives by feeding on blood, and he does not spare even the old servant who has served him for many years. He was directly drained of blood, becoming a dried corpse. Yet he, having come back to life, laments that living is truly exhausting. Meanwhile, Lu Shan creates an incident so that his master can escape from Yun Zhongtian as soon as possible. He fights fiercely under the city wall of Yun Zhongtian. Looking at the bodies scattered across the ground, he truly deserves the title of Blood Circle Goro. He must kill Shiman Huiling's personal guard to become one of the 7 little heavenly stars. At this moment, the people he brought are about to escape from the clouds. The martial artists who relentlessly pursued him have all fallen under the sword of the tomb. Seeing the number of pursuers dwindle, Tang Qiman begins to worry about the safety of the treasure land along the route. At this moment, Xia Jinyue seemed to discover something. He suddenly turned around. Zhoutian ghost Zhuge Shiman appeared out of nowhere. He stood with his hands covered, curiously looking at Xia Jinyue. You are the one who has repeatedly thwarted Shiman Huiling. You and the crew's appearance has already threatened my position in Yunchangshan. Today, I must eliminate you all. He stepped out with the movements of the Bagua. With his 49 steps, he fled. Xia Jinyue and the others were surrounded by the endless forces of the Jojo. But to cope with the current situation, Xia Jinyue had made preparations after entering Yunchangshan. He had set up countless formations in every corner of the city, specifically to counter the 9 pillars and 10,000 stars formation of the Shiman family. Moreover, he has already found a way to break the formation. Behind Xia Jinyue, a formation plate slowly rises. In the next moment, he is lifted by the formation. Under the immense pressure in the air, he actually intends to activate the counter formation method to break Simon Hua's swap strategy. On the other side, although Lu Shan has already wiped out all the pursuers beneath the city walls, it seems he is struggling to withstand the attacks from Lian Susu. He was finally shot in the chest. He gritted his teeth in pain and bit down on Lian Susu's neck. In his frenzied bite, he ripped Lian Susu's head clean off. He finally collapsed in a pool of blood, waiting for death to come. The flight attendant arrived in time and helped him up. You did a good job, brother.